Regularly scheduled programs will not be seen at this time so that we may bring you the following special program.
From the Marion Golf Club in Ardmore, Pennsylvania. It's the final round of the 71st Annual United States Open Golf Championship. And here at Marion, none of the golfers, amateur or professional, are bringing Marion to her knees. Jim Simons has lost 2 shots to par today, but still has a 1-shot lead on the 2-time Open champion, Jack Nicklaus. Incidentally, there are 11 players in this battle in the 4th and final round within 3 shots of the lead, and believe me, the tough holes are yet to be played. And this Open champion knows of what I'm speaking.
I should certainly say so, Chris. With all these great players bunched coming to the last few holes, you know, the last 4 or 5 holes here are some of the greatest finishing holes in the game of golf. So the man that can hold his stability and hold his game together the last few holes will be the winner. It would be most impossible at this point to pick the winner. But I'd like to say that some of these great amateurs have played this golf course remarkably well, and this young boy, Simons, has just been holding on great playing with Nicklaus out there today, and we're really looking forward to see him come into view on our camera to see this great young player play against Nicklaus as well as this golf course.
Well, of course, there are many unique features of Marion, which dates back to 1912, and an added feature today is hot, humid weather in this lovely Philadelphia suburb. Speaking of those unique features, the difficulties of the course, we want you to review with us again some of these little problems.
Well, this is the 18th hole here, and look at the chute that you drive out of up into the fairway here. It's over 200 yards to the fairway, and you have many holes on this golf course, especially the 12th, coming out of a chute like this. And this is the landing area, the narrow area of the fairways. Some of these fairways are only 25 to 30 yards wide, and then we have heard and read so much about the rough and seen so much. Now, this is what it's like, especially on areas where this large gallery have not been able to tromp it down in. You see how deep this club goes into there, boy. And then look at the brush and grass that hangs out over the sand, over the bunkers into this, and makes it most difficult you could get against one of these. And the narrowness of the greens. Look at the width between this green and the bunker here. And there, of course, is the pin placement real close to the front, which was one of them yesterday, but it's the same today. And that is the famous wicker baskets for the flags that they have here at Marion.
Though the course is old, they have had only 2 course superintendents, the late Joe Valentine and now his son Richie Valentine. And that Valentine family has kept this course with this another Open championship right at the top.
They really have, Chris. They've done a remarkable job.
And speaking of a remarkable job, take a look at the 11th hole, watch the play, and listen to Jim McKay.
Thank you very much, Chris. Jim Colbert and George Archer are playing the 11th hole. This is one of the most famous in all of golf, the one they call the Baffling Brook. Cobb's Creek meanders through it, goes around to the right side of the green and then in back of it. This is George Archer, the former Masters champion, on the green in 2, the tallest man on the professional golf tour. Archer started the day at 1 over par. He's now 2 over, but well within striking distance. Remember, he's only 3 shots out of the lead. Jim Simons, the amateur, still leads at 1 under par, a shot ahead of the great Jack Nicklaus. This pin placement today is about as difficult as it can be on 11, tucked behind that trap on the rear part of the green. George tried to play it safe, it looks like, and play for the middle of the green, but he's too short. Left himself a very difficult putt, and look at that. You're going to see a lot of that today. Great putters leaving themselves tremendously long putts for pars is because of these slick greens that have been trimmed to 5/32 of an inch. There's your scoreboard. Simons 1 ahead of Nicklaus, 2 ahead of Lee Trevino, and Jim Colbert, who's in this twosome, and Ray Floyd, who's having a good round today, and Bobby Nichols. Floyd, by the way, is 2 under on today's round. We'll be seeing him very soon. A real charge. A moment ago, there were 12 players within 3 shots of each other. There are 6 within 2 shots. Remember, Simons, Nicklaus, Trevino, Colbert, Floyd, Nichols. Archer at +2. The weather conditions are perfect. It's a warm, hot summer day. There's a wind blowing that will come into play. This putt shouldn't break too much. George Archer gets his par to remain at +2 for the tournament. 1 over on today's round. This is the 11th hole, remember, they're playing, as we're bringing you just about all of the back nine here today. Jim Colbert, 30 years old, native of Kansas City, a former football player at Kansas State, despite his comparatively small stature of 5'9". Jim went over this green, chipped back very nicely, and now has this putt for a par 4. Something else you'll see all day today is these great golfers looking over 1 and 2 foot putts for perhaps as long as a minute, because the breaks are very subtle and very tricky. Look at the putter that Jim Colbert is using. It's a strange thing. They call it the potato masher and a number of other names, the flying saucer, whatever you'd like. You can make up your own name for it. It's a new kind of putter. Colbert's been doing very well with it. He says it's the difference in his game. This for the par 4 on the 11th hole. He's got it. Jim Colbert remaining 1 over for the tournament. 2 shots out of the lead. Now back to the tee of this 11th hole, and this is Lee Trevino, the Open champion in 1968 at Rochester, co-holder of the low scoring record for the U.S. Open, and he's 1 over. He also just 2 shots out of the lead. You hit a blind shot off this 11th tee over a hill, and then hopefully short of Cobb's Creek. Here's the landing area, and he's on the fairway. Lee Trevino, I believe, has made the fairway. I can't see it from here. ABC's exclusive color coverage of the final round of the United States Open Golf Championship will continue after this message. The 11th is one of the most famous holes in all the world of golf. It's so short, only 370 yards, this par 4, and yet it holds so many perils for the unwary golfer. You hit a blind tee shot here with either a lofted wood or an iron because you have to play short, over a hill, down into the valley, into a small landing area just short of Cobb's Creek, which actually meanders all the way through this hole. It can cause you all kinds of problems. There's also very heavy rough there. You hit up onto the green, and the creek itself meanders around to the right of the green and all the way around behind. You can even go into it if you're long. Well, here we are at the tee of the 11th hole, which is also one of the most famous particular points in golf. This is a monument to the day that Robert Tyre Jones Jr. completed his grand slam by closing out Eugene Homan's 8-7 on this hole. Let's take a little closer look at it. I think as we move in, you'll actually be able to read the inscription. September 27th, 1930, Robert Tyre Jones Jr. completed his grand slam by winning the United States Amateur Championship. And here he was on the day that it occurred, the great, immortal Bobby Jones. And this was the instant when Gene Homans congratulated him. The grand slam had been completed for the first and only time in the history of the game. What a moment to remember. And then there are others. This was Gene Sarazen leading the tournament in 1934, getting in trouble on the 11th, eventually taking a 7 and losing out to Olin Dutra. And now at that same spot, almost, but on the fairway, here is Lee Trevino, a live shot now as he hits to this 11th green on this par 4, 370-yard hole, the famous 11th at Merion. And he's okay. You see him in the middle of the putting surface. He'll be coming up at it with a fairly straight putt in his attempt for a birdie 3. Lee Trevino playing today with Bobby Nichols. Nichols, who last year won that Dow Jones tournament and $60,000. Now here's Bobby, 1 over par, as is Trevino. They're tied for 3rd place at the moment, along with Jim Colbert. Nichols, pro at the Firestone Country Club in Akron, Ohio now. Stays there most of the time, but comes out for the big tournaments and plays very well in them. Bobby Nichols and Lee Trevino on the 11th hole. Trevino, we would repeat if you don't know, is the happy Mexican from Texas. Bobby Nichols caught the sand with his second shot, so he is in trouble, one of the leaders with a problem now. Remember, Jim Simons, the amateur, is still the leader here. No amateur has won this tournament in 38 years since Johnny Goodman did it in 1933. Simons 1 shot ahead of Nicholas. They'll be coming within range of our cameras very soon. 2 shots back are Lee Trevino, there you see it, Bobby Nichols, and Jim Colbert. The playoff, if any, will be at 18 holes tomorrow, and you'll see it live on ABC from 4:30 to 5:30 Eastern Daylight Time. That possibility a very strong one at the moment, of course. Bobby Nichols is the young man who Came back from an automobile accident as a teenager, spent many, many months in the hospital, very nearly died, was unconscious, I think, for about a month, and always seems to get his game up for the big ones. How good is he out of the sand, Byron, if you can hear me up there?
Well, yes, Jim, he's quite good out of the sand. He has a very soft touch, this man did. He's strong. For a strong player, he has a very soft touch, and that's what he needs there because he has very little room. He'll have to hit this shot with an open face, cut just a little sand out from underneath the ball, and drop the ball very softly if he expects to get close to the hole.
Okay, well, Nichols looking over that shot. And meanwhile, on the 12th hole, here we have Jim Colbert. Remember, he is tied with Nichols and Trevino for third place, just 2 shots behind the leader. Colbert had rounds of 69, 69, and 73 yesterday, hitting that second shot up to the 12th green. Looks pretty good. It's long. It's going over the green. Colbert, with the wind behind him, has carried it too far and gone over the 12th green. He had a beautiful line on it, but just too much stick. It is over behind, not out of bounds, however. You can go right out into Ardmore Avenue if you go far enough over. Now back to Nichols on the 11th, and you can see that's kind of a fried egg lie he has there.
Jim?
Yes, Byron.
Now, this lie, of course, he's going to have to hit this now. Of course, I couldn't see before, but with this lie, he's going to have to hit with a closed face and explode the sand out underneath the ball. He must play this ball out into the center of the green. He cannot take a chance to play toward the hole from there.
And he stayed right in there. Too bad. Bobby Nichols, with that very difficult lie, just 2 shots out of the lead, now lies 3, and he's still in the sand on the historic 11th hole. That's one of the reasons it's so famous. The pin placement today is extremely difficult. It's tucked in the left rear, and he just left it short with that second shot, and goodness knows how long a man might stay there now. Nichols, we started to say before, won a $60,000 first prize last year. Former PGA champion. Dave Marr, you played this hole a couple of times this week in the first 2 rounds of the U.S. Open. Did you find that sand at all?
Well, I was a little bit lucky there, Jim. I made a couple of pars, but I did play with Bobby the first 2 rounds, and, in answer to your question, he's generally a very good trap player. But with that kind of lie that he had, maybe he was taking a little bit of a gamble there.
I'll tell you, this lie may be worse. He's changing clubs. Looks like he's right up against the bank there, perhaps.
Well, he's a very deliberate player, Jim, and it takes him a little while to make his mind up. I think you'll see, through the finishing holes here, Bobby changes clubs quite often. He never seems to really, make his mind up and play right away. It seems to take him, he gets 1 change of clubs.
Okay. Well, he lies 3 now, and it's a par 4 hole. If he wants that par to stay 1 over for the tournament, have to hold this one out. There are the famous wicker baskets of Merion. Instead of flags, they have those baskets, and there's his shot, leaving him that one now for a bogey 5. So this will be a hole that Bobby Nichols will remember for a long time. Bobby from Louisville, Kentucky. Remember, his playing partner is the flamboyant Lee Trevino. There he is. Trevino played yesterday with young Jim Simons. I walked several holes with him, and Lee couldn't have been nicer in the way he tried to keep the 21-year-old amateur Simons loose and relaxed. Jim didn't say anything at all, but Lee was kidding him, and in a way that indicated he really was trying to relax him, not to needle him at all. Bob Rosberg's gotten back into the thick of it. Remember 2 years ago at Houston, Bob Rosberg, the veteran professional, now from St. Louis, almost won the Open the year that Orville Moody took it. Trevino won it the year before. And now here's Bob Rosberg, further up on the course, the roly-poly figure of the one-time Stanford University baseball player, cross-handed grip. And, of course, you will be seeing Rosberg, but right now the order of business is a birdie putt by Lee Trevino on the 11th hole. It would put him within 1 shot of the lead. He's left it short, so Trevino will stay 1 over, 2 shots behind the leader, Jim Simons. The youngster has not cracked yet, and he's completed 9 holes. Trevino still wearing that bandage on his right forearm that hides the name of a young lady he knew many years ago. It's tattooed on there, and there's no way you can get rid of those. Now Bobby Nichols with this putt for a bogey 5. You know, the pin placements are graded by Bob House, the vice president of the U.S. Golf Association, as to 1, 2, 3, 4. I think this has to be a number one pin placement. Would you, Byron and Dave, agree with that?
I certainly would. I think the toughest pin placement on the golf course today. Really is a tough, difficult place. You must have a lot of nerve if you shoot right at that pin, and that's what apparently what Bobby did, and Lee probably played a little more safely out into the middle of the green, because this hole has cost many players, including Sayers and then other people, this championship.
It sure has. And boy, out here today we have about the hungriest group of... Whoops, here comes word. Jim Simons has bogeyed the 10th hole. He's in a tie for the lead with Jack Nicklaus, 1 shot ahead of Trevino and Colbert. Oh, hungriest group since Ben Franklin came to town with only 2 rolls in his hands, didn't he, to Philadelphia? The deliberate putt of Bobby Nichols, and he gets that 5. That's important because it keeps him at +2, and he is now still only 2 shots out of the lead because Simons just took a bogey. Now we're back to 12. This is a 405-yard par 4. Jim Colbert put his second over the green, remember, and in his third, he is still off the fringe of the green. He came down the back and rolled very, very fast towards the bunker. It's a very difficult green to hold. This is for his par 4. If he misses this, or does not make it, to put it more properly, I think in this case, Colbert will go to 2 over in a tie with Nichols and will be 2 shots out of the lead instead of 1.
I don't think it's too bad.
He strikes it with the mashed potato. And very nearly makes it. Jim Colbert. Last tournament he won was the Monsanto Open in 1969. Last year, though, he won $49,000, which still left him 45th on the money list. Colbert goes to +2, 2 shots behind the co-leaders, Jim Simons and Jack Nicklaus. His playing partner, George Archer, still in the thick of it at +2. Putting for his par. If you've just joined us, there is the story. It's only just begun. Nicklaus and Simons, even for the lead, have only completed 10 holes of the final round. George Archer is 2 shots behind them. There's so many people who could still win this. $30,000 first prize, unless Jim Simons wins it, in which case he gets nothing. He is an amateur. In that case, the low professional would get the $30,000. Simons, at age 21, would not be the youngest ever to win the U.S. Open. Let's watch Archer. He gets his par 4. The youngest winner of the Open Championship was John McDermott. In 1911, he was the first native-born American to win it, and he was only 19 years, 10 months, and 14 days old when he won. At the 11th tee, we're going to have the leaders very shortly. Now, there you're looking back from the 11th green across Cobb's Creek up at the top of the hill. They hit the other direction, coming at you over that hill from this tee. They are there now, Jim Simons and Jack Nicklaus. Simons was just taking a bogey, and Jack Nicklaus will be hitting first. Nicklaus started the day at 1 under. He is now even. In other words, he has lost a shot to par today. Taking an iron because you do want to stay short on this hole, short of Cobb's Creek. He's hitting with a crosswind blowing from his right to his left. Twice United States Open champion, going for his 3rd. The lowest 72-hole score for an amateur ever turned in the U.S. Open was 12 years ago by this man, and Jim Simons is challenging that score today as well as challenging for the title. Listen to that wonderful click. Here it comes. And Jack is smack where he wants to be, in the middle of the fairway. He'll have a good shot up at that flag, but it's a difficult pin placement, remember, tucked in the left corner. The second shots will be interesting. Jim Simons, 21 years old, working on a Father's Day present for his dad. He hopes it would be the U.S. Open Championship. Just a very short time ago, he lost out in the finals for the British Amateur Championship in match play to Steve Melnick, another American. The biggest title he's ever won, the Pennsylvania Open, playing in his home state. Well, the yelp so far sound appreciative. Sounds like a good one for Jimmy Simons. Did he find the fairway? He's in the fairway, okay. He's all right. So Simons and Nicklaus, co-leaders, have good first shots. Let's go up course to Henry Longhurst.
And here's the 16th fairway and Bob Rosberg. It'll be about a 4-iron. He's just had a birdie 3 at the last hole. 2 under for today. It's a question whether it makes it up to the top level, and it just stays on the top level of the green. And back to Jim McKay.
All right, we're now with Jim Colbert on the 13th hole. This is a little short par 3, only 129 yards. But as you can see, a tough pin placement, and he's hit a fine shot. Colbert at +2. We'll return to the Marion Golf Club following this important message. The meticulous play of Jack Nicklaus in evidence on the 11th fairway of the Marion Golf Club in Ardmore, Pennsylvania. It's the United States Open Championship. This is Jim McKay reporting, and this shot will come up over Cobb's Creek, hopefully over a sand bunker, and near the pin, if Nicklaus strikes it just right. Pin tucked to the left rear of this green on the famous 11th hole. And he's short, well short of the flagstick. Now Lee Trevino on the 12th hole, playing 1 hole ahead of Nicklaus and only 1 shot behind Nicklaus and Jim Simons, who are tied for the lead. And it's long, but it's a good shot. That'll come back. Watch it come back. Rolling down towards the flagstick. Could come very, very close. Look at this. Lee Trevino should get himself a birdie here and go into a triple tie for the lead. That's no fluke. That happens on this green. The green tilts from back to front. And if you put it up on the top with any backspin at all, it'll do exactly that. He's less than a foot from the hole. Now Jim Simons to hit his second shot on the 11th. Remember, he's tied for the lead, the 21-year-old amateur from Butler, Pennsylvania. There are his previous rounds. 65 yesterday, just 1 stroke off the open record for a single round of play. Hitting probably an 8 or a 9 iron. Rosberg got a par on 16, so he's in there 1 shot out of the lead. And he is shorter than Nicklaus. He's way back there. That's going to be very difficult to get down in 2 from there for a par 4. But they are both at least on the putting surface of these greens, which we'll repeat were cut to 5/32 of an inch and then rolled last night. They're the leaders. Nicklaus and Simons even. Trevino and Rosberg 1 behind. 2 behind Archer, Nichols, Gabe Brewer, the former Masters champion, and Jim Colbert. Wonderfully exciting afternoon in
Jim?
Ardmore, Pennsylvania. Byron Nelson, yes.
Well, you know, one of the reasons why they might be coming up a little short there, the wind is switching around just a little bit, and also just over that green is a long grass and water again, and they didn't want to be sure that they didn't go too far at this point. Of course, I know they want to get closer than that, but they become a little conservative at this point.
Okay, well, the United States Open is, of course, the national championship, but it's only one of 9 competitions conducted by the USGA. USGA also conducts 8 other national championships for women amateurs, for women professionals, for public course players, with the crowd applauding the leaders as they come up, for senior men and senior women, and for junior girls and junior boys. The USGA is concerned with all golfers and with all of golf in such varied capacities as writing the rules and with the development of hardy turf grass to make the game more enjoyable to play, establishing a nationwide system of handicapping, establishing a code of amateur status, and ruling on the legality of clubs and balls through the Implements and Ball Committee. The USGA is a very busy office. And a well-occupied young man is 31-year-old Jack Nicklaus. Gee, it seems like yesterday he was the boy wonder, doesn't it? Now he's the well-established veteran, challenging to be the greatest golfer of all time. And with him is a new face. That's the way of life, isn't it? But back to 12 now. This is Bobby Nichols hitting his 3rd shot to long putt, which should break just a little bit to the right. And it'll come down here very fast. Look at this. It'll just keep coming and coming and coming. And breaks off to the right, and he's left himself a putt he'll have to consider for the par 4. It's only a couple of feet, but again, all of the short ones here are tough. Now back to the 11th green. And young Jim Simons, toe-headed youngster, just 3 years ago, he was up with us on our tower helping to keep score at the U.S. Amateur in Oakmont. He missed the cut that year and came up and worked with us. So Duke Keller, who's keeping score for us today and who will be on the golf team at Duke University next year, perhaps will follow a precedent. You never know. We mentioned the wicker baskets before. You don't see it right at the moment, but they're characteristic of Marion, and there's actually a rule. If anybody should ever stick the ball in the wicker basket and it would stay, you get to put it on the lip of the cup. But as far as we can find out, it's never happened. Now, Simons is on the left, Nichols is on the right. Nichols playing one hole ahead of Simons is 2 shots behind him. Simons' putt, the long one is for a birdie, the shorter one of Nichols, but not an automatic one, is for a par 4. Jim Simons really in that sit down in the chair position, perhaps more than anybody I've ever seen. That's on his longer shots too, as well as his putting. Here it comes. It's a good putt. He'll settle for a par 4 here. Meanwhile, Bobby Nichols is still standing over his. Just as deliberate as Jack Nicklaus is Bobby Nichols. Making sure of the par 4, and he's got it. He remains 2 over and 2 behind the leaders. The leaders are Nicklaus and Simons. 1 stroke back, Trevino, Rosberg, and Colbert. 2 strokes back, Brewer and Nichols. There's the wicker basket we were talking about. Lee Trevino now has this for a birdie 3. If he makes it, he's tied for the lead with Nicklaus and Simons. He is wearing that same red shirt that he wore when he won the Open on the last day at Rochester. Often does that when he's in contention on the final round. Trevino's tied for the lead. It's the Mexican-American, the youngster from Pittsburgh, and the great Jack Nicklaus, the Golden Bear from Ohio, in a triple tie for the lead. But now Nicklaus can break it open. For the moment, he can take the lead if he makes this birdie putt on the 11th hole. And the crowd is really divided in its sympathies now. In fact, at the 12th green, they're hollering, "Go Lee, go Lee," but they're hollering, "Go Simons and go Jack," back on the 11th. That is when they're not putting. The stick being tended by the caddy. He'll take it out when Jack putts. That's compulsory. You have no choice unless you're off the putting surface. If you're off the surface even a couple inches, you can leave it in. Here it comes. Here it comes. Well, of such small distances are U.S. Open championships made. Jack Nicklaus, with a par 4, will remain tied for the lead with Jim Simons and Lee Trevino, but Simons has yet to make his putt here on the 11th. Okay, Jack is in. Jim Simons first played in the U.S. Open when he was 16 years old. That was at Baldusroll in 1967 when Jack Nicklaus beat out another young amateur named Marty Fleckman on the final day. However, Marty took 80 that day. There is no sign that Jim Simons is going to do that. On today's round, he is 3 over par. If he pars in from here, he'll have 73 and at the very least a new amateur record for 72 holes in the Open. The record is 282 set by Nicklaus, remember, 11 years ago. This is for a par 4. Okay, the triple tie for the lead remains. Let's go to Bill Fleming at 17.
All right, thank you. This is Bob Rosberg on the 17th hole. This is 224 yards, and his ball comes up, is on the putting surface, and he has quite a little mound to go over, 20 feet. And now back to the 13th, and we're taking a look at the group of Archer. Right now it's Bobby Nichols on the 13th hole. This is a little dinky hole, 129 yards, just really a little wedge shot, but to a postage stamp of a green. Bobby Nichols. Up it comes. It's just a little bit long, just in the first cut. You can see Trevino's ball there to the left, and we'll take a look at his shot by videotape and how he got there. Here it is. Just hitting a very delicate shot over the front bunkers. Remember, this is the 13th hole. Up it comes, runs just a little, and then that backspin, which was so advantageous to him at 12, doesn't quite hold at 13. Jim?
All right, Bill, this is the tunnel we were talking about, a tunnel of trees back to the 12th tee on this 405-yard par 4 hole. Almost reminds you of looking into the tunnel on the race course at Monte Carlo. A different mood, but just as much of a problem for these men. There's the tunnel effect of the trees. They must come through there, and Ronnie Rife, for one golfer, hit the trees on the right this morning. It's not that's difficult to do. Then you must carry a creek that's 210 yards away, and to reach the fairway, it's 220 yards. Today you want to favor the left side of the fairway so you'll have a better shot into the pin placement. However, there are bunkers if you go way up on the left side, which Larry Hinson did a while ago. Jack Nicklaus has the wind kind of quartering, but assisting him, if anything. It might make the ball drift off to the right a little bit. And people even wave in back of people fighting for the U.S. Open, don't they? They are not on the course, as a matter of fact. Boy, Jack does take a long time over that ball, doesn't he? There it comes.
Left side of the fairway.
And he's left. He has a problem. He's way up in there. He may be not as far as the 11th fairway, I don't think. I think he has caught sand over there. We can't quite see that bunker. It's up on top of that knoll. They call it the Elephant over there. So Jack Nicklaus, in a triple tie for the lead, has a problem. Whether it is actually in the sand or not, we're double checking. Our first information is that it is in the sand. Now Jim Simons. Simons, who has shown just tiny signs of cracking up to here, has now seen that even the mighty man with whom he is paired can make a mistake. And now if Jim Simons, despite all the wig-wagging behind him, can hit a straight tee shot, he may be able to be in a commanding position. Comes. I think that's going to be okay. He's right on the fairway in perfect position. Just right. Byron, he's on that left side. Couldn't be much better than that, could it?
No, it certainly couldn't, Jim, because that pin cutting that back right and up on top of that green, you must need that whole green to play a good shot to.
Well, now, we got more information. This dog here just picked up somebody's ball on the 16th green and ran away with it. I don't know whose ball it was yet, but that'll be an interesting rolling. They'll replace it, that's all. But they may replace the dog, too. It was Ray Floyd's ball, and Ray is very much he was in contention. He's been falling back to 4 over now. Let's go up to Bill Fleming.
Okay, Jim. And now we're taking a look at Lee Trevino, lining up his putt on the 13th. He's got it again. That rascal has been trained. Well, the ruling here is that you have to putt the dog. I'm, of course, not serious, and now we must get serious as we go back to Trevino at 13. This is for a birdie. He has made 3 straight threes in the first 3 rounds. Looks beautiful. Oh. What can you add to that? One dimple on the golf ball prevented it from dropping into the cup. He would have taken over the lead. So Trevino remains even. And here it is again. Really unbelievable. So now Bobby Nichols. Bobby Nichols looking over this one. This will be for his par 3. Bobby 2 over for the championship. This is the fourth perfect day of weather for this championship, the 71st USGA Open. The third one to be played here at Marion. Olin Dutra won in 1934, Ben Hogan in a playoff at 50. It's still a big question as to who the champion will be in 71. This is for a par 3 for Nicholls. Bobby was quite short on his first one, as you saw. Beautiful. Here's Bobby Rosberg at 17. This is for a birdie too, but it is just about a foot and a half short. He had to come over a mound. He missed a little putt, just like this one. Remember 2 years ago at Houston? A 3-footer that would have tied him with Orville Moody. He missed it on the 72nd hole of that championship. Wound up in a 3-way tie for second that year. Now let's go to Jim McKay.
Well, we see Jack Nicklaus's ball now already. All right, he has a terrible problem. He's in the sand behind a tree, and he's going to have to play it out safe, it looks like. But let's see now. He's looking it over again. You see the tree problem there. This is a par 4 hole, remember. Pin placement on the right side, and he is in a left fairway bunker. Hooked his tee shot over there. In a triple tie for the lead with the amateur Jim Simons and the former champion Lee Trevino. Well, he hit it under those branches, and he's hit himself a great shot. He's on the green. Jack Nicklaus has hit a tremendous shot out of the sand. Dave, how'd you like that?
Jim, that was an absolutely fantastic shot he just played there, and I'm sure he's really happy. I was surprised he took enough club to get to those traps off the tee. Thought maybe he might go with a 3-wood off the tee there.
Yeah.
Some great shot he just played.
Well, he had to stay under the branches of that tree. He was on a kind of a side hill lie in the sand, and he's got himself a chance at a birdie 3. Now, let's see if that shakes at all Jim Simons, who hit a perfect tee shot to the left center of the fairway. Jack Nicklaus had to come, he had to come a good 160 yards from that bunker, didn't he, Dave?
About 165 from the first part of that bunker there.
Well, he was up about 5 yards in it, right? Here's Simons in that exaggerated sit-down position. And here's the shot. It looks pretty good if he's got enough. Great shot. Oh, see the way it pulls back off the green. And just into the fringe of the rough. It's headed right for the flagstick. Whether he'll putt that or chip it, we'll be seeing here in a moment. And our final round coverage of the U.S. Open Golf Championship from the famed Marion Golf Club in Ardmore, Pennsylvania will continue following this message.
Okay, here's Lee Trevino on the 14th, are tied for the lead along with the amateur Jim Simons and Jack Nicklaus. And Dave Marr, he's in pretty A-number-1 position.
He's absolutely perfect, and every shot's going to count so much now. It's just a great shot he hit.
And now we're back at the 12th. Jim McKay here, and I'd like to get a comment from Dave Marr, who was a contender here, remember? Played here for the first 2 days on this shot of Jim Simons, but I think maybe Nicklaus is going to hit first. Jack is further away. It doesn't matter who's on the green or not. It's whoever is further from the flagstick, and it was close. Looks like it's Jack. Now, he has got himself a putt, I'll tell you. He could make a birdie here, but he's got a putt of about 27 to 30 feet, and it's going to break to the right. There's your leaderboard. Nicklaus, Simons, Trevino, 1 shot behind Rosberg and Colbert, 2 shots behind Nicholls and Archer. But Jack's putt is going to take a big break to the right, and it's going to come down there so fast that you won't believe it. There, that stare that Jack gets. Ultimate concentration. Looks like he could bore holes in a fence with that look. Twice the Open champion. 9 years ago, and just 4 years ago at Baldwin when he set the scoring record of 275 that was tied the next year by Lee Trevino, with whom he is tied right now. Yes, Byron?
This is a putt that he could hold for birdie, as you said, but if he ever got aggressive on this putt, at least, so that green from that area where he is, he could put it 6 feet past that hole like nothing.
He sure could, and a number of people have done exactly that today from here.
It's
Oh, you saw how softly he struck that. And here comes the break, and it's still going, 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 going. And he's left himself with that for a par 4. Now, how delicately can you stroke a putt? It even brings a wag of the head from Nicklaus. He'll have to make careful of that. That's about a 2-footer coming back. Now, Simons is just in the fringe. Dave, how about a comment on this one?
Jim, when you have a shot like that Jimmy's about to play there, it's sort of unique, really. You only get shots like that in a major championship when they leave the fringe around the green very tall. Looks like he's got a putter out. There's almost no shot that you can really play. You sort of have to invent one because the tall grass is directly behind the ball. And as you can, and there you see Lee Trevino getting ready to play his second shot at 14 here. Lee's hit just perfect drive. He's in the right side of the fairway.
Now we're back to Jimmy, and there you see the lie. A very good look at it. It's just in that grass, and he's going to use the putter. We'll see if that's a good idea. Now, he's coming up at the hole. He's really got a more secure shot at it than Jack had from way up on the top of that slick green. Probably rolled pretty good coming out of there. There it is. And he's left it short, so you're coming uphill there. They each will have about the same length of putt from a slightly different direction. Let's go up course now to Chris Schenkel.
And it's a 72nd hole for Bob Rosberg, only one shot off a 4-way tie for the lead. He's on the 18th fairway. Here's his shot to the green. Into the wind. On the green. And hole high. Okay, Bud Palmer.
That is Lee Trevino is second up here to the 14th. He's tied with the lead with Simons. Oh, and look at that shot by Lee. Tied with Simons and Nicklaus. And Lee Trevino, who tied it up at the 12th with a birdie, has about an 8-foot tricky downhill curler.
Very good shot.
Jim McKay?
This is Jack Nicklaus on 12 for a par 4. He has it. Now, Jim Simons must make his. Pressure on the youngster again. Nicklaus at age 31. Simons at 21. He's never done anything like this before, except for that recent sudden showing in the British Amateur, where he went to the finals and was defeated by Steve Milnick. However, the competition there was not Jack Nicklaus, and it wasn't Lee Trevino, and it wasn't Merion. It wasn't the U.S. Open. Trying to move some people out of his line of sight there. No, the gallery rings the green. I think it's I'll tell you, it's a movie cameraman that he's moving back there. Now he's satisfied. There you see the putting grip of Jim. Now this one. Same length as Nicklaus's, almost to the inch. Less than 2 feet. Okay. Let's go to Frank Gifford.
Jim Colbert, second shot here at 15. And Colbert has pulled that shot to about 40 feet from the pin. A very difficult pin placement here at 14, as you see. Colbert would have had to come over the edge of that bunker. He has about 14 feet to work with. There are leaders, 3-way tie, Nicklaus, Simons, Trevino. As you see, Jim Colbert, one back of those leaders along with Bob Rosberg. Jim Colbert, who on Friday had a share of the lead, along with Bob Erickson, as we go back to Bill Fleming at 13.
All right, this is the little, tiny 129-yard hole that demands just the ultimate in finesse. That's really the only word you can use in describing this par 3. and it kind of sets you up for the finishing holes that follow. Jack Nicklaus has to be very careful here. He uses a wedge, has used it on all 3 rounds. Jack has made 3 threes here. Simons, curiously enough, has made 2 threes and a birdie. Now the pin itself is over on the right side, just 20 feet from the right edge and just 18 feet from the back. And I don't have to tell you what kind of a crowd this is here. It's been just absolutely marvelous. It's the first time in history of the United States Open that we've had a sellout. They had to restrict the number of tickets, 14,000, because of the small acreage, only 126 acres, here in Ardmore, Pennsylvania. And now Jack Nicklaus on the 13th. 3-way tie for the lead, remember. Very carefully hits it. And it comes back with just a little backspin. He's above the pin. Now let's go to Bud Palmer.
This is Bobby Nichols. I have to be very quiet. He's directly below us. About a 35-footer. It'll go uphill and break right to left. He's 2 strokes off the lead. Oh! Back to Bill Fleming.
Jimmy Simons getting ready for his shot here on the par 3 13th. He had his birdie here yesterday. On his way to the lowest round in the tournament, a 65.
Looks beautiful, Jay.
He doesn't like it. For some reason, and there it is. It was just too long. Hold it right there. It could go down into the bunker. I don't think it went in. The branch prevents me from seeing it. Nope, it's okay. It's not in the trap, but he's going to have a difficult stance, to say the least.
Yeah.
All right, Bud, back to you at 14.
All right, here is Lee Trevino with about an 8 to 10-footer curling putt. It'll break right, left to right, and we have Bob Rosberg on the 18th, who is... Both are shooting for birdies. Rosberg has led the Open a couple of times. We mentioned he almost won it when he missed a 3-foot putter, tied for the lead, that is, with Orville Moody when he won it. These are both for birdies, as I mentioned, and Lee Trevino on the right, if he sinks it, as Rosberg goes for his birdie, he misses. If Lee makes this one, he will go into the lead.
That is very fast there, Bud. He will just have to touch that ball ever so lightly.
You got to paint him like Gauguin or Rubens here. Is it? Is it? It is! Of Jim Simons and Jack Nicklaus.
And here at the 18th hole for a par 4, Bob Rosberg. Disaster, a bogey 5. He came to the hole only 1 over par, 1 shot at the time off the lead, but now with Trevino taking it over, instead of a 3-way tie, Rosberg has finished the championship at 3 over par. John Miller is also 3 over. Here's Frank Gifford.
And Jim Colbert's birdie attempt here at 15 from about 28 feet. And Colbert will have a considerable putt to maintain par here at 15. Colbert at 1 over par. As we go now to Bud Palmer.
Bobby Nichols. Here he is for a par. He's 3 strokes off the lead now. This is a tricky putt. Quite a bit of break, and they're just like glass. They're lightning fast, these greens. Ooh, you see what I mean? And now let's go to Bill Fleming.
All right, the drama is beginning to unfold here now as we come down to the final holes. As Nichols taps this one in for the bogey, here is Jim Simons with this desperate shot, his second on a par 3. He's above the hole. The adage at Marion is, if you're above the hole, you're in trouble. Oh, he hit a very delicate shot. Really a marvelous shot from there. Giving it a chance to preserve the par. Frank Gifford.
Jim Colbert, this putt for par here at 15. And the potato mash here works for Jim Colbert as he remains at 1 over par, 2 shots off the lead by Lee Trevino. Jim Colbert. As we go now, back to Bill Fleming.
All right, Jack Nicklaus now, having seen what Jim Simons did on that beautiful recovery shot. Jack is on the putting surface, and he is going to be coming down also to the hole. There's a beautiful view of his 12-footer. That's what Jack has shot so far, 2 subpar rounds. There were only 23 subpar rounds going into today's final round. Only 6 yesterday. This is for a birdie. He could go into a tie with Trevino for the lead. Don't think so. Played it just a little bit too far outside. I don't know whether that is readable there, Byron or Dave, but
I think that putt is pretty straight. I think he just rolled it just a little bit more to the right than what he would like to have done, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
Not much break from where he was.
And certainly not an easy putt here for Jim Simons.
As good as they are, they don't hit exactly on the line they want to each time, unfortunately.
This little tiny green, very, very, very small, smallest one on the golf course. But the greens are very true. They're triple cut, by the way, to remove any grain at all. This is to preserve Jim Simons' par at 13. He and Nicklaus have fallen a stroke back of Lee Trevino. And he breathes a sigh of relief. So he's still in the ball. Young, boyish-looking college student. Not succumbing to this pressure cooker that is the U.S. Open. And now Nicklaus for his par. It's him, and they both. They're still 1 stroke behind Lee Trevino. Let's go to Frank Gifford.
And we'll look at the tee shot of Lee Trevino, which took place just moments ago here at 15. Lee Trevino charging, playing dangerously here at 15. Remember, out of the bounds on left, and Trevino has flirted with the out of bounds and hit an absolutely perfect drive here at 15. He will have an opening to the flag, not having to go over more than just the corner of the bunker, as you see. As we pull back, there is the wicker basket. So Trevino in good shape as we look at our leaders. And ABC Sports continues with this exclusive color coverage of the prestigious U.S. Open Golf Championship following this message. One under par. Jack Nicklaus at even par. Jim Simons even. Jim Colbert 1 over. Bob Rosberg at 2 over. Lee Trevino charged up and playing dangerously on 15. And here is the shot, the second shot of Lee Trevino just moments ago. The shot carrying long and about 22 to 25 feet above the pin, where Lee Trevino will have a rather deadly putt coming back. Now to Bud Palmer.
On the 14th tee, Jim Simons. This hasn't been a particularly good hole for Jim Simons, the amateur, because he had 2 bogeys and 1 par. But it's been a great hole for Jack Nicklaus, who has birdied it twice and parred it once. Jim Simons.
That was some par he just made back at 13, Bud.
Jim Simons. Oh, you saw his ball disappear into the rough. That's Jim Colbert. Henry Longhurst.
That's Jim Colbert. We just caught playing his second to the 16th. It's a great big green, and we waited, and there it is on his left, leaving him a putt of at least 25 yards, and he'll do very well to get down in 2 more. That's Jim Colbert. 1 over. Only 2 ahead of him, only 3 ahead of him. Trevino 1 under, Nicklaus and Simons even. Now we go back to Frank Gifford.
As we watch Lee Trevino walk up to take a look at the distance he's going to have to cover with this putt, it's downhill and it's fast, Dave Marr. Dave Marr and I were watching last night, and I don't know whether you believe this or not, but Bob Erickson and Ron Reef were actually practicing their putting on the concrete outside of the motel where they're staying, to give you an idea of the speed. Lee Trevino looking for his 2nd U.S. Open championship, co-holder of the U.S. Open record, along with Jack Nicklaus at 275, and this is Bobby Nichols. And this is what we had mentioned earlier. The bunker that guards the green here at 15 has caught many a golfer today. Bobby Nichols will have about 18 feet to work with. Nichols at 3 over par. Yes, David.
If you hit enough club there, you do what Trevino did, and if you pick, you almost have to hit a perfect shot if you're going to try to make a birdie, and that's what caught Bobby there.
And you see Bobby Nichols with not much green to work with, carrying well past the pin, about 20 feet. Bobby Nichols out of Firestone Country Club in Akron, Ohio, a great player in major tournaments. And we have some U.S. Open here today. Lee Trevino now looking over his putt. We've only had 6 birdies recorded here at 15 today. Again, the placement. Proof that the back 9 can be had, though. Bob Charles, who came in with a 68 today, tied the lowest 9-hole score of the U.S. Open. A 30 on the back 9 for Bob Charles, so much can happen here. And here is the record which they will not break here today. A record that is co-held by this man, Lee Trevino, in 1968 at Rochester. Lee with 1 tournament win this year at Memphis, Danny Thomas. This putt will be just about straight in, I would estimate, Dave.
And Frank, it is so fast going down that hill. He's just going to, I'm sure, just try to get it close to the hole, because I feel like Lee's smart enough to know if he can get the clubhouse with 279, he'll be the winner here. This is really fast.
For 3 at 15, Lee Trevino. It's on his way. And it will go by. And Lee Trevino will have perhaps 5.5 to 6 feet coming back as we go quickly to Bud Palmer.
And we have Jim Simons hitting, changing clubs here. There he is. He's deep in the rough here, and it's awfully deep, Dave, getting out of there, isn't it?
Well, it just depends on what kind of lie he has over there. He changed clubs once. I'm sure, he's got to try to take enough club to get to the green at this point, but it certainly looks deep over there where he is. And he's just got no shot, really, but he just try to make a 4 the best way you can here.
The gentleman watching there with his hands on his hips is Phil Strubing, president of the USGA. Amateur Jim Simons 1 behind. And he doesn't get it onto the fairway. Now let's go to Henry Longhurst.
Here's the 16th green. We saw Jim Colbert come up there, leaving himself 25 to 30 yards. Putting up that very curious implement he uses. A pretty good putt from there, but you've still got to hold it, and it's back to Bud Palmer.
There's Jack Nicklaus for his second. He's in the right rough. See the trap, that little white you see, is one of the many traps on that side. Jack one stroke off the lead, and remember he's birdied this hole twice and parred once.
He's got a lot better angle at the flag than Jim Salmons did, plus he was quite a bit longer, but he's got a little bit easier shot, I would say. And he does need a birdie.
It's right at the flag, coming up, but he's left himself, it's going back down to that undulation there, rolls back, and he has, what, about 20, 25 feet, I'd say,
Yeah.
Dave. Now let's go to Frank Gifford.
At 15, where Lee Trevino is lining up, a putt of about 5.5 feet. Lee needs this for his par to maintain his lead. Oh, so delicate for Lee Trevino. Lee Trevino with that colorful action as he gets his par here at 15 to remain our leader. And happy he is. As we go now back to Bud Palmer.
And here is Jim Simons, his third shot here on the par 4 14th. He caught the heavy rough. He's still in the lighter rough now, about 100 yards away from the pin.
He's still got a bad angle to come into the hole, but he needed to get out to the fairway there so he could put something on the ball. It's very hard to get any spin on the ball out of this tall grass. He's played just great today. He ought to be very proud no matter what happens.
And Jim Colbert birdied 16, rather bogeyed 16.
Well, you can see his ball just trickle to the right in the shadows there, and it, as you can see, it didn't have very much spin on it. He's about hole high, maybe 30 feet away, putting for a par 4. Jim Salmons, who at the moment is tied with Nicklaus, even par, and one shot behind Lee Trevino.
There's Jack coming up to mark his ball. Jim Simon is 3 over for this round. Jack Nicklaus is 1 over for the round. He's looking at the leaders right there. The leader in the clubhouse is Bob Rosberg, who shot a 69 at +2. At +3 is John Miller, who had a 70. At +4, Bob Charles Ray Floyd. And the applause is for Jim Simons, who is still looking at Jack Nicklaus, who's going up above to take a look at this hole. And he's with the baskets. Here are some of the other scores for the 72-hole total. Jim Masario is a very fine amateur. At Wicker Basket, did that bother you when you played here with not having a flag on top and not being able to see that the which way the wind was blowing or not?
That's one point, Bud, because there's no way you can tell exactly which way the wind is blowing. Those baskets don't move around too much. Let's just see what's happening with Henry at 16.
There's a 16 tee and the leader, Lee Trevino. They were going to tear this course apart, and he's the only one under par, and he's only 1 under par. Lee Trevino, the leader, and he's in the fairway. Probably more important at this hole than any other that you should be on the fairway because of the big trees guarding each side of the green. Now we go back to 14th.
That is Jack Nicklaus looking over his putt along with Jim Simons on the right in the red shirt. There are very many subtle undulations in this green. It's somewhat like a great-looking gal in one of these new mod dresses. You don't know exactly what you're seeing and what you don't see.
I thought Geraldine had the answer for that.
And we have Ben Crenshaw with us here, who shot a 289 total today. And Ben, what kind of a player is Jim Simons?
Jim Simons is a very straight player. That's why he's done well all this week. He's kept it in the fairway. I've played a lot with him. He's very consistent. That's why he's done well this week.
Ben Crenshaw, a very fine 19-year-old amateur, shot 73 today, came in at 289 or +9, as did Gary Player and Don January. He needs this for a par, and it's a long one, about 30 feet uphill. He has to go down, up, and then the ball's going to break right to left for his par.
A big break, too, bud.
That's not going to do it. That's not going to do it. Very close, that break at the hole. This hole has been most unfriendly to Jim Simons. This will be his third bogey in 4 rounds. But it's been most friendly to Jack Nicklaus, as Jim Simons is marking his ball, because Jack birdied this hole in his first 2 rounds. And he had 69 and 72. With the 68 yesterday, he parred it. Remember, they're both 1 stroke behind our leader, Lee Trevino. Now let's go to Bill Fleming.
All right, this is the 17th tee, elevated as we look back from the green. Jim Colbert with an iron. He's bogeyed this hole the last 2 times he's played it, after a birdie on the first round. And he catches the bunker on the right side, a golfer's right, and has a considerably difficult shot. All right, Bud.
This is a little tap in for Jim Simons, who now goes +1. That is a bogey, 2 strokes off our leader, Lee Trevino. And now Jack Nicklaus. Jack has a putt of about 35 feet. You saw it roll down into that subtle undulation, which you can't see on the screen here, but it sort of pierces the middle of the screen. So his ball's going to come uphill and fairly straight, I'd say, wouldn't you, Dave? Might die a little bit at the cup.
Yeah, but the guys have been playing a little bit too much break from this side, and most of them have missed it left. I'll be interested to see just how Jack figures it out here.
Jack tied this tournament up. He started 2 strokes behind Simons at the second hole, which he birdied and Simons bogeyed. And at the 5th hole, he had a double bogey. Simons bogeyed it, and Simons went out ahead again. But now Lee Trevino's our leader, and Jack Nicklaus with this putt can put it into a flat tie. That's Jim Simons, you can see at the same time. Played beautifully today, the amateur. What pressure.
Needs a birdie, bud.
Is it enough? Straight, but he's left himself about a 2-footer for his tap-in, for his par to remain 1 stroke off our leader, Lee Trevino. You know, we're about due for a playoff here in the U.S. Open. We haven't had one since '66. In fact, in the 71 Opens they've had, there have been 24 playoffs, so it's quite frequent. And if we have one, it'll be 4:30 to 5:30 Eastern Daylight Time. And, of course, next Sunday, we'll also have the Women's Open coming from Erie, Pennsylvania. So a lot more golf on ABC. We have the British Open, the American Golf Classic, and the Amateur. Jack Nicklaus for a par. Rolls it in to remain 1 stroke behind our leader, Lee Trevino. And who said they're going to tear old Marion apart? They certainly haven't. Only 1 fellow under par so far. And ABC Sports continues to bring you the finest in professional golf. For the slight pause here in the action at Marion Golf Club, we'll take this opportunity to bring you an important message.
Young Jim Simons standing on the very dangerous tee here at 15. Jack Nicklaus has hit a superb drive, splitting the middle in perfect position. And this is Simons, out of bounds on the left, the fairway, flanked by bunkers on the right, deep rough on the right. And you heard the gallery, they love the shot. As we go to Henry Longhurst.
And the 16th hole, and Lee Trevino, there he is, playing his second from the perfect position from a long drive. Only about a 5-iron, double-tiered green. Lag on the top level, he seems cheerfully to like that one. And I don't wonder that he does. And it's a 15-footer for a birdie for Lee Trevino, attacking all these flags on the way home and leading by 1. Now to Frank Gifford.
And we'll take a look at the drive of Jack Nicklaus. This took place a few moments ago. Absolutely a superb drive. Right in the middle, where Jack will be able to cut the bunker that guards the pin here at 15. As we go now to Bill Fleming.
All right, we're looking at Jim Colbert on the 17th hole. He has put his tee shot in the trap. He's blasted out, and this one here about a 6 or 7 footer to preserve the par. Break right to left. He bogeyed the last hole to go +2. So he really needs this one. Using that new style putter. Has a black streak right down the middle of it. He's got it. Played it just perfect. So Colbert preserves the par. Still 3 strokes behind, charging Lee Trevino. Henry?
Now we're back to the 16th green. Trevino marking his ball there. The only man under par at the moment, and only one under at that. You'll have to wait, Bobby Nichols puts a 30-yarder right up the slope. It's very fast green. And we go back to Frank Gifford for a moment.
We're out on the fairway. You see Jim Simons. There are the 2 tee shots. Simons coming up, I would presume, to check off his marker, measuring the distance to the pin. Jim Simons, who has now playing in his 3rd U.S. Open, 21 years old. This is the shot. And Dave Moore, most of the golfers, I believe, have been using anywhere from a 9 to a wedge, although Simons is not that far out. Simons has his club selected. From about 155 yards, Jim Simons at 1 over par now, trading Lee Trevino, who's 1 under par. It is right on line. Absolutely a beautiful shot, Jim Simons. He'll have a putt for a bird of about 8 feet. And you talk about pressure. This young man has had the pressure, and he's not cracked at all. Now to Henry Longhurst.
And we come back to the 16th, where we left Lee Trevino with his 15-footer. And we go back to Frank Gifford a minute.
And this is Jack Nicklaus setting up for his 2nd shot. From about 145 to 150 yards is Jack Nicklaus. He needs a birdie. And he's right on line. And a little long is Jack Nicklaus, about 30 feet as we go to Henry Longhurst.
And now here's the putt. The 15-footer for a birdie for Lee Trevino. It's a very good one. Just fell away just at the very last moment. Looked to be in all the way, and a very fine putt, but it didn't make it. Just about 2 feet past, if that. But nothing is stone dead on these icy greens. To take the very greatest care. Is for his par 4. We've only had 4 threes here out of 56 players. This to stay 1 under for Lee Trevino. In the middle, well done, Trevino. He stays 1 under with 2 to play. Only 2 behind him now, Nicklaus and Simons. And go back to Frank Gifford and see them.
And here comes Jim Simons onto the green, where he has just hit an absolutely superb 2nd shot. We'll remind you again, as you can see, the pin is cut 14 feet from the edge of the green, 18 feet from that bunker. He flirted with disaster all the way on that 2nd shot and has left himself about an 8-foot putt. Trailing Lee Trevino by 2 shots, Jack Nicklaus. Now walking up to where his 2nd shot made the ball mark. He repairs the ball mark and now will survey a putt of about 30 feet. Jack Nicklaus, who has won just about everything there is to win in golf, on the record as saying he would like to win the most of all the major tournaments, that mark, of course, held by Bobby Jones. Nicklaus, along with Lee Trevino, has a share of the U.S. Open record, 275 set at Baltusrol, 1967. Let's go now to Bill Fleming.
And the 17th hole is what confronts Lee Trevino right now. And there you see it from the back of the green up through the wilderness of gorse, trees, high grass, up to the elevated tee. Now, yesterday, Lee took a 5-wood here. And now you look at Nicklaus surveying that putt as we watch now as Trevino up on the tee has an iron. He had a bogey 4 here yesterday. He said this is the most non-birdieable hole on the golf course. To substantiate that, there have been only 2 birdies here today. So I would imagine the strategy would be just simply play for the par with a 1-stroke lead. Oh, it's a great shot. It's a little long, though. Didn't hold. Went off in the rough. Right on line. But the green just a little high. Said I hit a 3 and I can't hit a 4 there. All right, Frank.
Jack Nicklaus, who has surveyed his putt. This would give Jack Nicklaus a share of the lead. Here at 15 from about 30 feet. Putt will work just a little bit left at the hole. And it's on its way and slippery. And there's that little left, and Jack Nicklaus has gone well by about 5 feet, maybe 6 feet. And again, the speed of the greens here at Marion. Now young Jim Simon. And I think perhaps another amateur's father, Ben Crenshaw, the amateur from the University of Texas. His father maybe put everything in perspective when he told Ben about the Marion course. He said, it's old, it should be loved and honored, and if you get out of line, you'll get whopped. Jim Simons, who has stood up fantastically well under great pressure. Playing his final round with the man who many think is the finest golfer in the world at this moment, Jack Nicklaus. This youngster still not out of this tournament. There's the gallery standing around and watching this young man from about 8 feet. This for a 3 at 15. The little left at the hole, and Jim Simons has gone by the hole about 2 feet, maybe 20 inches. He will mark, and Jack Nicklaus will have this putt to maintain par and 1 shot off the lead of Lee Trevino, who is in trouble at 17. Jack Nicklaus looking for his 3rd U.S. Open championship. The Masters, he's won 3 times, 63, 65, 66. Truly dedicated golfer. The members at Wingfoot of Mamaroneck, New York can recall Jack Nicklaus years ago, arriving on a rainy day when even the members would not go on the course. Jack Nicklaus on his honeymoon, his wife Barbara holding the umbrella, playing 18 holes. That's the dedication that has made this man the great golfer he is. Now from about 6 feet for par. fantastic pressure putt by Jack Nicklaus for his 4 here at 15 to maintain his one-shot deficit to Lee Trevino. And now, no easy putt for young Jim Simons as we go quickly to Bill Fleming.
All right, as Jim Simons is placing his ball, you're looking at Lee Trevino, who has gone a little bit long on 17. He went over yesterday and made a bogey from just a little bit farther out. But this is one of the things he does best. Oh, it's beautifully done. Sure. Only a 2-footer there for his par at 17. And let's go back to Frank.
Jim Simons needs this putt to remain 1 over par and well within contention, about 20 inches. And Jim Simons refuses to crack, getting his difficult par here at 15. The twosome of Simons and Nicklaus now move over to the tee at 16, and this youngster has put on some kind of performance. We go now to Henry Longhurst at 16.
Now we come to the 16th, and as the model of the hole we start nearest to us, it's called the quarry hole, and you must drive down in play. Above all, at this hole you must be in play. You can see those big banks of trees, and as the tee, we'll start back there again, and there's the driving area down there, downhill that is, and trees on the left, and they're very tall ones, and trees on the right, also tall. So if you go too far either side, you can't make it over the trees. There's the quarry, and a lot of wilderness in it. And now we go back to Chris Schenkel.
And for Jim Colbert, who's been near the lead, this is a putt to gain a stroke. That was for 3. Now he'll have this at least a 3-footer coming back for his par 4 to remain 2 over for the tournament. Okay, Henry.
I went back to the tee live of the 16th, the quarry hole. Now even Jack Nicklaus can let fly at this hole. Downhill to the quarry. Now it's simply got to be on the fairway. Even Nicklaus, I don't think, could hack out of the rough. And it's in the rough. It's in the rough. It'll have to be a good lie there, even for Nicklaus to get over the trees and over the quarry and up onto the second level of the green. Colbert got his par at 18, we're told. And Jim Simons. Colbert finishing 2 over par, 282, to take the lead with Rosberg. He's continuing to play his game, which is all that he can do. I think everybody will admire the performance of Jim Simons here under this very, very great pressure, playing last. And we go to Bill Fleming.
Lee Trevino getting ready for a very tense moment to preserve his par 3 at the 17th and to preserve his lead of 1 stroke. He did it. He did it with grace. So Lee Trevino, who took the lead on the 68th hole of this USGA Championship, who made a fantastic putt at the 69th or the 15th, is now going to the 18th. Chris?
And what a punishing hole the 18th is. 458 yards, par 4, and trouble right off the tee.
That's the driving area that you see there, and that's the tee, and this is the area where you must drive the ball to, right on the middle of the top. It's about 235 yards to the tee from there, and you see these bunkers around this green. The green slopes up to the center, and then from the center of the green to the back, it slopes away from you. It's a very critical hole.
And Byron, today we've had only 1 birdie 3 here, 15 coming into today's final round. That gives you a pretty good idea of just how difficult it is to not only get on the green, but to get down.
Well, you never have a level lie off your second shot. and the green slopes away from you, and the pin is cut in kind of a little saucer today in the back left-hand side of the green, making it most difficult.
What a tiny slot to send that ball through.
Choking already?
Yes, and heard Lee say he's choking already, so...
Choking with a one-shot lead.
He's been pretty loose all day. He says he's got to play and this other guy's choking.
He's playing, of course, with Bobby Nichols, who is 4 over on his round today.
Choking already.
This is the way that Lee loosens himself up a lot of time. If he does get tense, why he starts kidding around, and it does loosen him up a little bit. He won't take much time, never does.
Come back. No. There's a lot of fairway over there, though, isn't there?
It's off to the golfer's right.
Well, I didn't want to go down.
There's the 4 caddy who has marked just possibly on the fairway, and it'll be a testy
He'll die
shot.
a few deaths before he gets there, because it's going to be a real long iron or possibly a wood to reach this green from where he is. So it makes a lot of difference whether or not he's just in the edge of that short cliff drop or whether or not he's in the fairway.
Now back to Henry Longhurst.
Now here's the 16th, and Jim Simons ideally placed right in the middle of it, and Jack Nicklaus away to his left, our right, obscured from us behind the green by the very big trees which he'll have to carry. Got a better hope, I suppose, than anybody in the field with his great strength, to be able to get out of that rough and over the trees and over the quarry. Most people couldn't. But even he will have to take a chance. I think it's Jim Simons who's standing up so wonderfully well to play first. And there it is, looking over the quarry from the other side. And we look back from the back of that green. Jim Simons first. Two behind Trevino, one behind Nicklaus. Carry up to the top level of this 2-level green, and it has done so beautifully. Should stop just on the tiny fringe there. You'll be able to take a putter from 20 to 25 feet for Jim Simons. Now this is rather a toss-up for Jack Nicklaus. Depends very much on how he's lying. One can't see him at this stage of the championship not having a go at it. Now this is the critical shot up to now, perhaps, for Jack Nicklaus. Well, from the sound it made, it seemed that he could get at the ball well enough. And it's up on the top left-hand level of the green, just run over into the little fringe rough on left of the green. And we'll return to this beautiful Merion Golf Club in Ardmore, Pennsylvania, and more final round action in the U.S. Open after this brief message.
"40 seconds ago, Lee Trevino hit this shot, a fairway wood to the 72nd hole. Watch it. Sees coming away for a better line of sight as he knows it's going to his right, bouncing across through the green and into the gallery at the feet of that young lady in the blue culottes and the red blouse. So from there, he'll need to get down to 2 to keep his one-shot lead. Back to Henry.
Now back to the 16th. Nicklaus has just missed the green, if you remember, about a yard into the rough. And although it's only about 15 yards from the flag, you have to play a very delicate one here. We've seen so often that The ball apparently comes to rest and then just rolls on and sneaks on 4 or 5 feet by.
Henry?
Yes.
Henry, this shot, you must be sure that you get the ball as quickly as possible. In other words, get as little grass between the face of the club and the ball as you possibly can, which means he should strike downward on the ball a little bit with a lofted club to just kind of pop the ball out and let it trickle as softly as he possibly can.
Now, he seemed to catch a lot more grass, exactly what you were saying, Byron. He caught much more grass, I'm sure, than he meant to, and it sort of dulled the shot, and it's left him 5 to 6, perhaps 6 feet short of the hole. And that was a very unsatisfactory one at this moment for Jack. And there, that's how they stand. Trevino's still the only man under par in this tournament, and only one under at that. Nicklaus, we're watching now on the 16th even. Jim Simons, one behind. The leaders in the clubhouse at 282 are Bob Rosberg and Jim Colbert. Now, Simons had a rather more satisfactory second than Nicklaus, and he's about 20 feet and can take a putter. And here are some other scores coming up of the non-winners. About 20 feet for Jim Simons. And what if he could hold this one? Oh, that's a bold one. It wants to hit the hole. See how they run by? Well, he had to go for it, and he's 4 feet by. He got a tremendous sympathetic cheer when he arrived on this green, and I've known that's been going on all the way round. Whatever may happen to him, he's made a great showing, Jim Simons. Yes, this is a good 6 feet for Jack Nicklaus, after that rather unsatisfactory little pitch from the edge of the green. These will make 60 players we've seen here, only 4 threes. This one for a par 4 for Nicklaus. Now cheering from, I think, the 18th puts him off, and he has to start all over again. He smiles rather ruefully. Must make it very hot. So for Nicklaus, it's down to it all over again. And it's still 6 feet. Probably looks more by now. Wonderful putt. Magnificent putt by Nicklaus. No wonder he shakes his shoulders. So he gets away with a par 4 at 16. So Trevino, still the only man under par, 1 under. Nicklaus still even, getting away with that par there. Jim Simons with this one to stay at 1 over. About 4 feet this one from Jim Simons. Greens like glass. Well done. And across to Chris Schenkel.
Very important third shot by Lee Trevino, 60 feet away from the flag. A delicate touch brings him within 5.5 or 6 feet from the cup. This is the man that leads Jack Nicklaus by 1 shot here on the 72nd hole. Trevino, who beat Nicklaus at Oak Hill, tying a Nicklaus record set earlier at 275. He beat Nicklaus at Rochester by 4 shots. Now he leads him by 1. Bobby Nichols is on the green in 3. You'll recall he had to come out of the woods in the rough and put it across the fairway where he had to hit his third shot out of the deep grass. Back here in a moment, here's Bill Fleming.
I'm sure that when you ask Jack Nicklaus about that putt, he'll say that was one of the biggest ones of his life. Kept him even, and here he is back on the elevated tee at 17. Only 2 birdies here today. Not too likely that Jack will be quite as bold. He is being kept up to date on the other scores with the various scoreboards around the golf course, so he undoubtedly knows what he has to beat. He does not know, however, that Trevino needs that tricky putt of his of 6 or 7 feet to keep from making a bogey. Now the question here is, which club will he use, Byron? He's used 2, 3, and 4 irons so far.
Well, I think he'll use a 4-iron today because that's at this time the adrenaline's really going and he's charged up and he knows he must put the ball in the middle of the green, get the ball on the green. So I would think he'd use a 4-iron again today.
224 yards and a 4-iron. Can you believe that?
Well, Bill, being downhill a little bit shortens the hole a little bit as far as the flight of the ball is concerned.
Earlier we saw Trevino take a 3-iron and go over. Only 2 holes to play. Nicklaus 1 stroke back.
Got it. Okay, John. Beautiful, beautiful, Jack. Beautiful. Look, in the beach.
It's long and it's in the bunker. However, it's in a pretty good spot. Actually, the players would rather be in the sand than they would be in the long rough around the green. You and I wouldn't, but they would. He wasn't particularly happy, Byron, with the way he hit the shot, I don't believe. Chris?
Well, here's the big putt at the 72nd hole for the leader, Lee Trevino. This will be his 4th stroke, going to the opposite side of the cup now, Byron, to get a look from that side, looking back into a very bright sun.
Yes, Chris, Lee has been playing well all day, and of course, not all day, I should say, for a long time, really, since 1968, but since 68 to now, he's won over $500,000, so it shows what a wonderful player he is in the Open or otherwise. And this putt will go just a slight bit to his right, straight in if he hits it firm.
Bill Fleming?
All right, Jimmy Simons is up on the 71st hole, the 17th. We'll watch him hit his tee shot here. Jimmy 2 strokes off the lead. Right in the green, will it hold? Yep. Rolls just off, but it is not in the high grass. Chris?
To keep his lead and to be the only man under par in this championship, Lee Trevino needs to make this putt. And he was distracted, which does not often happen to Lee.
No, somebody dropped something over back of the green. Sounded like a barrel almost, Chris. But he's not easy to lose his composure. He'll take a practice swing now after being stopped. Getting ready again.
This is for his par.
Watch how still he keeps his head, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Must do it on this putt. When it really means something, the more you must be still.
If he makes this comeback putt, we have a tie. Only a little more than a foot. It's a bogey 5, which has been the story of this finishing hole, the 18th. ABC Sports and the USGA combined to bring you the finest in golf. We'll return to the Marion Golf Club in one moment.
As Jack Nicklaus comes to the 17th in the bunker, the crowd around the green apprising him of the fact that Lee Trevino has bogeyed the 72nd hole, brought a big grin to Jack's face. He now realizes that all he has to do is par out to tie for the championship and force a playoff, which ABC would be covering tomorrow from 4:30 to 5:30 Eastern Daylight Time. The crowd ringing the green here. There's just really nothing like an open. The air is just full of electricity of the pressure. People back on the 17th tee looking down, trying to get a glimpse of a historic moment. And there have been many here, and this could be one of them. Jack, if he could chip it in out of this sand trap, would take the lead. He wants to get it close, just close. The door has been opened very slightly for him. Delicately done. Hold on. And even though he glares, he acknowledges the crowd that it was indeed a fine shot, even though he has that 5-footer facing him. Now Jimmy Simons, whose ball just rolled on the fringe, just short of the high grass, gives the wicker basket to his caddy and will look it over. Now just remember, Jim Simons is far from being out of this. If he should make it, he would go into a 3-way tie for the lead. Trevino is finished for the day, missing his par putt on the 72nd hole by a fraction of an inch. Slight break right to left. There's Trevino in the USGA tent at the 18th, checking his card, as Jim Simons is far removed from that world. To the left by 2 inches. So he taps it in for a par 3 at 17. He's only 1 stroke away. Listen to this applause. He had to bite his lip a bit when it missed. And now Jack Nicklaus with one of the biggest putts of his life. This is to preserve the par, to stay tied with Trevino.
Bill?
Yes, Byron?
I know that he realizes what he needs to do, and it gets most difficult at this point, and Jack has holed at the 15th and the 16th hole, 2 very long putts like this, what we consider long putts at this time. And know that he has been putting beautifully recently, so I know he's thinking about this very point himself. Can I make another one?
Now the pictures speak for themselves. There's Lee Trevino looking anxiously down with Frank Hannigan, secretary of the USGA. Frank up there at the tent at the 18th, Trevino looking down the 18th, trying to get some idea of what's going on. This for the par, to stay tied. did it. Nerves of steel. And he breathes a big sigh. Well, that's it. That's 17 in the 71st hole. And now Jack Nicklaus must birdie at 18 to go for the championship or tie with Trevino if he makes the par. And as he has done for the last 5 years in a row, this being the 6th in a row, to call the final hole, Chris Schenkel.
Thank you very much, Bill Fleming. A beautiful Marion. Out 458 yards from where Byron and I are observing. You see the elevated 18th tee, the bunkers of 17 to the right. This is a hole only today, one birdie, that by John Lister. And it was a bogey 5 by Lee Trevino that took him out of the lead, and he now shares it with the man in the lemon-colored shirt, Jack Nicklaus. It was a tough break, the 18th also for Bob Rosberg, who bogeyed it. He's in the clubhouse along with Jim Colbert at 2 over. Trevino in, of course, at even.
Well, Chris, you can wonder what he's thinking about, but of course this man has, as Bill Fleming just said, nerves of steel. In that last putt, he made it just like it was out for a Sunday walk. He knocked it right in the middle of the hole, nice and firm. I'm sure you'll see him really go all out with this one, probably with a 3-wood, though, because he likes to stay kind of up on the slope of the hill.
And you saw the narrow passageway with his wood. Put a hard swing on it.
Come on, Jimmy.
The 4 caddy now indicates that it is near the middle and it is long. It is on the downslope. Jack Nicklaus has found the fairway on the 72nd hole, tied with Lee Trevino. Now Jim Simons, who started out today at 3 under. He is now 1 over. Big hole for this amateur.
Chris, he's played remarkably well. Of course, the Walker Cup, then the British Amateur, and now and then the American Open.
Come on, baby!
10 years younger, sending the ball forward and to the golfer's left. And as it is being marked, it appears to be in the rough for Jim Simons, trailing by a shot. More final round action in the United States Open continues after this brief pause.
In the clubhouse at even par, the happy Mex, Lee Trevino at 280, sweating it out. And Lee, what distracted you on that putt?
Well, Bud, you know, it's these people are so wonderful out here. We've got 19,000 of them out here, and over on the left-hand side, there was a kid up on the scoreboard and he fell off, but I don't want to use any excuses. I probably would have missed the putt anyway. The putter felt like it weighed 50 pounds, and the hole looked like a very small hole, and looked like I was putting with a tennis ball there for a second, but I used a little too much club on the last hole. I used 3-wood, but this is a tremendous hole, and I didn't hit a very good drive, so I deserve a bogey, I would think.
you don't mean that at all. There's a little change since you came up in 1967 to the Open. Nobody knows who in the heck you were.
Well, I don't think anybody knows who I am yet, really. But no, I have a tremendous following throughout the United States, and I hope all my friends are watching, and I appreciate it very much. And I try and play the best I can. I've had a pretty good string going. The last 5 tournaments, I could have won all 5 of them. And when I came here and looked at this great golf course, Marion, it's a thinking man's golf course. You have to drive the ball well, you have to place it on the greens well with iron shots, and you have to putt exceptionally well. I just happen to have a good week going, and it looks like Jack is driven the ball about 400 yards on the last hole. So somebody says nobody's ever made a birdie on the last hole to win the U.S. Open before, and I hope it doesn't happen here.
Well, listen, stick around. We'll come back to you. Now back to Chris Schenkel.
How's that for attitude? Lee Trevino. As you look at the hole models, we'll give you an indication where Jim Simons hit his tee shot to the left in the rough and short of the tee shot by Jack Nicklaus on the right. Jack got good length on his tee shot. Pretty good position, Byron, to this green.
I should say it is. As usual, Jack stands out in the middle of the fairway looking to the pin. Simons, of course, at this point standing below the ball, and the edge of the rough has a very difficult shot to play. And to his everlasting credit, I hope that he gets a real good one. He was real bad place. I don't think that he caught it very well out of that rough. People looking for the ball, but I don't think it came out of the rough. I think it just left side and short quite a little bit. Now then, down on the golfer's left. Now the Jack, with the drive that he hit here, even the whole 458 yards, I'm guessing, Chris, that he's going with a 5-iron today.
How about his strategy, Byron?
Well, his strategy is going to be to try to knock the ball right from the middle of the green. The green slopes to the left. He'll, I'm sure, try to carry the ball high, as Jack can do quite easily. Hit the ball into the right center of the green, let the ball drift to the left, which is the slope of the green. Been a lot of ball going over today, and as you just saw Lee do, and if he hit it real solid, it could go over also in that long rough.
Ball is on its way.
High to the center of the green, and if it
Jack Nicklaus has put his second shot on the par 4 18th hole about 10 feet from the cup. And if he could put it in the cup with the next stroke, he will have won his third Open Championship, Byron.
Yes, well, Chris, you know, he's made 3 putts out of the last 4 holes this same length, so he should have confidence on his putting. Of course, he really can't roll this ball very hard because he has quite a lot of slope downhill from there, but very little break.
Byron, he has another 3 going. The last 3 tournaments that we have televised, the PGA Championship, the Tournament of Champions, and the Byron Nelson Classic, Jack Nicklaus has won them.
Well, maybe he should underwrite ABC.
Well, he could.
The money he's making, he could underwrite most anything.
Jack Nicklaus, who began his drive on the Open title starting in 1960, losing in a playoff to Arnold Palmer. And as we look at Ben Hogan, who hit a 1-iron, not quite the distance that, or a little longer rather, than the shot Jack had. And Ben, of course, went on to tie Lloyd Magram and George Fazio, who's in attendance here. Sure great to see George around. And then the next day, won the playoff. And here's Jack Nicklaus, who's won twice, in 1962 at Oakmont in a playoff defeating Palmer. And then in 67, defeating Arnold Palmer by 4 at Baltusrol.
Chris, I believe that Jack plays with more confidence. I've played golf a long time and hard, but I don't believe I've ever seen anyone play with the confidence that Jack does.
And for a 21-year-old native Pennsylvania, this is Jim Simons' 3rd shot on the final hole.
The amateurs have played marvelous here. Lanny Watkins, the national amateur champion, had 68 twice, Chris. Ben Crenshaw had won 68. Jim Simons was 65 yesterday. A little bit strong. He was all keyed up, sure that adrenaline's really going, and the pitch just over the back edge of the green in his 3rd shot.
Jack Nicklaus now moving on the green. 3 Masters victories, 2 British Opens, 2 PGAs. With this putt, will be seeking his 3rd United States Open. Meanwhile, Lee Trevino over by the practice putting green in a fiery red shirt is trying to remain very calm, looking away at the moment, but he'll be checking things out. Jim Simons, that was his 3rd stroke, and it was long. And Bud Palmer's there with Lee. What's Lee's temperature now, Bud?
I don't know what Lee's temperature is. He just waved at Jack Nicklaus. You analyze his putt at Jack, will you, Lee?
Well, I think that it's not really a difficult putt. It is a...
What's the length, do you think?
Well, it looks to me like it's about from 12 to 15 feet. I think that the putt is fairly straight. The object here is to start the ball on the right line. Now, it'll be difficult to start the ball on the right line merely because it's so fast coming down that hill. But I think he has a fairly easy putt because he doesn't have to worry about getting the ball to the hole, in other words, striking it. The only thing he's worried about here is starting the ball on the right line. So I really don't think that the putt is really that hard. I think it's harder than the one that I had, but mine was about halfway.
I think we'll see you tomorrow. We'll wait and see. Okay, Chris.
Fine. Jim Simons will hit first. He is off the green. Flagstick here with the wicker basket at Marion. Wicker baskets way back were used at Wingfoot, which will be the site of the Open in a couple of years. Next year it'll be at Pebble Beach. Bill Coleman and staff from that coastal golf course were here observing the fine work done by Marion. Fine work done by this amateur as well. That was his fourth stroke on this par
Chris,
4 18th.
That looks like that he just flubbed it, but it wasn't. The ball is lying in a very loose grass. It's fluffing. And if you don't hit exactly right, why, you what we call just kind of fluff the ball a little bit. If you catch it a little thin, it rolls way past. And it looked pretty simple, but it really was not. It was most difficult.
Byron, the man in the lemon-colored shirt, is looking over his putt for a victory. And in 1960, when he was an amateur, he set the Open 72-hole record for an amateur, 282. Jim Simons, if he can make his putt now, will equal that mark of 282.
Well, of course, Simons, I think, is still away, and he will putt before Jack does and give Jack plenty of time to look at the line of his putt. Jack's putt is, as Lee said, is downhill. I actually would disagree with a little bit. I think that Lee's putt was more difficult than Jack because Lee's putt breaks very hard to the right, and Jack's putt has very little break in it. It'll break slightly right at the hole, but the only thing he has to worry about is not hitting the ball too hard, really, more he is, because if he tried to make the three, he could go 3 or 4 feet past and have a tough putt left. Now then, this putt is the same line that Lee's had. Now you watch this putt break to the right, unless he hits it real hard. It really goes off to the right. Doesn't look like that much either. Just a fraction hard, but it was really breaking, Chris.
Deserved applause for Jim Simons, who led after the third round at 3 under. And he finishes the championship at 3 over. Tonight, he'll be on his way to Tucson to get ready for the NCAA championships. Jim Simons playing with Wake Forest. Another amateur that did well here, Danny Yates, will be going there to represent the University of Georgia. And from Ohio State, as an NCAA individual champion, way back, 31-year-old Jack Nicklaus looking over a winning putt. If not successful putt, then a tie and a playoff.
At this point, you almost have to go with the percentages. He's been holding these putts now the last few holes, and the percentage is that you can't make all of them, but Jack always does the unexpected.
Byron, I know as a former Open champion, you have experienced the loneliness of being on that 18th hole.
You know what happens, Chris? What really makes us alone? All these people here, and you'll hear some noise till you get up to hit your putt. There'll be a mumble, a rumble, 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 people, rumble, rumble, rumble. You hear all this, and all of a sudden, just about the time you get to strike it, it goes dead silence. And then is when you feel that loneliness. It gets what you call deafening silence.
I'm having trouble holding this microphone, let alone holding a putter.
Well, this man has a great set of nerves, plus a great game.
this tap-in. 18 holes tomorrow, a telecast that will be on the air at 4:30. A par 4 for Jack Nicklaus at the 72nd hole, a bogey 5 for Lee Trevino, and things are all even. Jack Nicklaus finishing at 280, which is even par, and Byron, they did not bet it.
No, they didn't. It proves one thing, and that what a great golf course that Marion is. It stood the test of the onslaught of the great players of today. It stood it for 3 Open Championships, as well as all the other great tournaments have been held here. It's a marvelous golf course in great condition. It's a marvelous tournament.
Lee Trevino with a 69 today, Jack Nicklaus with a 71. And once again, the results of the 4th and regulation round, all tied. Lee Trevino at 280, Jack Nicklaus at 280, a playoff tomorrow on the air, 4:30 Eastern Time, all this on ABC.
Regularly scheduled programs will not be seen at this time so that we may bring you live coverage of the playoff round in the U.S. Open Golf Championship.
In 1967, Jack Nicklaus won his 2nd United States Open Championship. This putt on the final hole at the Baltusrol Country Club established a record score of 275. Jack retained sole possession of the record for a mere 12 months. 1 year later, a relatively obscure and unknown golfer named Lee Trevino not only won the United States Open Championship, contested at the Oak Hill Country Club in Rochester, but he also tied Nicklaus's record score of 275. Today, Jack Nicklaus, who may be the greatest golfer who ever played the game, and Lee Trevino, who may be golf's most colorful and engaging personality, meet in a playoff for the United States Open title at the classic Marion Golf Club. From the Marion Golf Club in Ardmore, Pennsylvania. It's the playoff round of the 71st Annual United States Open Golf Championship. This is another ABC Sports exclusive. Through 11 holes of the 18-hole playoff, Lee Trevino leads Jack Nicklaus by 1 stroke. Following a 22-minute delay because of an electrical storm here in the suburbs of Philadelphia, they are on the course and going after the $30,000 first prize. Great deal of rivalry between Jack Nicklaus and Lee Trevino. They both consider the other the finest in the world. So they're out there trying to prove that one of the two is. Here in Philadelphia, this is the 3rd straight Open playoff. In 1939, this gentleman was involved in a 36-hole playoff with the late Craig Wood, and Byron won out to win the title. And then, of course, right here at Marion in 1950, Ben Hogan had to down George Fazio and Lloyd Mangrum in order to win his title. It's the 27th in the 71-year history of the Open, Byron, and you know how Nicklaus and Trevino feel.
Yes, I certainly do, Chris, and I tell you, it's a great feeling to know that you've tied the Open because at least you have that record, but to try to keep yourself up, to try to not get too keyed up and stuff for the last round, for the playoff round, is a very difficult thing. And whenever you go out to play in a playoff round, as the boys are doing today, you play kind of half match and half medal. You kind of try to do what help play against what the other man does, but you're still playing against par and still against the golf course yourself. So it's kind of half match and half medal play.
Speaking of great players between us, Byron, and behind us we have Mr. Jack Nicklaus, who has won 7 of 11 playoffs in the past, including 3 of the 4 major championships. Last year's British Amateur, he did it for his first Open victory and also for a Masters win. So here he is on the 405-yard, par 4, 12th hole after birdieing 11 to pull within 1 shot, having trailed by 2 over Trevino.
This hole is a 405-yard hole uphill. Jack is driven nicely in the fairway, and he'll have probably about a nice 8-iron or maybe just a 9-iron to this green that's slightly uphill, and we'll see where it goes. It's a little long and to the left of the flag slightly, but this rain will slow the greens down a little bit and give the boys a little better chance to roll the ball a little more firmly on the green.
Thus far, Jack has had 3 birdies and a double bogey, while Lee Trevino who is at even par through 11 holes, has had a birdie and one bogey. There's Lee. He very often will wear the bright red shirts as he did yesterday, and today he's very puritanical and white, and standing alongside, that is the president of the United States Golf Association, a native of the Philadelphia area, Mr. Phil Strubing.
Lee is quite straight, Chris, and you see he's in the ideal place here. He's on the edge of the fairway. It's really the shorter way of the hole. I'm sure Lee is going with just a good sort of a pitch shot, about the same as what Jack had. Complete different style of play by these two players, but I hear people say, look out, look out. So it's nicely on the green, though.
Trevino has never been involved in an 18-hole playoff. He's been involved in 4. He won 2 and lost 2 in sudden death. Now, they have some tremendous holes facing them for this championship. Here's more details. Here's the 13th hole, the shortest of the par 3s at 129 yards, Byron.
Yes, this little hole, you see the teeing area there. Not much problem on this hole. All you have to do is miss all those bunkers, but it's a complete round green, and you see how they've played the hole during the tournament. It's a very round, a kind of a saucer-shaped green. Then we come to the 14th, the tee here. The trees all along the left-hand side, as well as an out-of-bounds. Now, this can cause a lot of problems. That is the ideal driving place. Deep rough on the left. A lot of bunkers all the way up, as you can see. Bunkers left and right all the way around this hole. And the pin cut in the back right-hand side to green that's somewhat blind. Now the 15th, Chris, is, as you see, this out-of-bounds goes along the left. And the ideal driving place is here. A little high fade, bunkers on the right. Probably a 3-wood off the tee for Jack today. Bunkers around the green, and the green with a big yawning bunker in front of the green to the right.
And here's the 16th, 430 yards, par 4. You'll hear Henry Longhurst do commentary in this hole in a bit, but right now, Byron.
Well, you see where the pointer's going there. Was pointing first at the ideal driving place, and now then, this is the quarry that you've read and heard so much about. It's a deep thing. As you see how they've played the hole, this grass, a long rough all the way around this green. Then the 17th, a magnificent par 3, 224 yards. Probably the most difficult hole to par to par on the entire golf course. This area down here is just no man's area, is where you do absolutely have to stay away from. The pin is cut just about in the center of the green.
Then the finest for a finishing hole, the 18th, 458 yards, par 4. And this is where things happened yesterday and perhaps again today.
Yes, you see the pointer there. That's the ideal driving place. You drive out of a slot. You can hardly see the fairway. Then these bunkers that guard the fairway up and down, and then this green that slopes up to the center, and then from the middle of the green to the back is a very, very difficult putt. Now then you see Jack getting ready to putt at the 12th hole.
12th hole, a par 4. And if he can make this putt, he would pull even.
Chris, I think this is a whole lot of people, our spectators, I hope saw Jack play the marvelous shot out of the bunker, underneath the tree when he drove in the bunker to the left on this hole yesterday. That one of the shots that kept Jack in the tournament, kept him going so he could get into a tie with Trevino.
They started out today. Jack parred the first hole, and Trevino bogeyed it.
This putt it will not be quite as fast, but they're still fast, even with the march on the green. This will break considerably to his right. Still can't hit the ball. You just have to roll it smoothly and blow on it gently.
Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on,
Boy, I'm telling you, Chris, you can't go as close and not go in.
Almost like 18 yesterday, where he could have won it outright. Jack Nicklaus at the 12th hole. This is for a par 4 in the playoff. Live color covers coming from the Marion Golf Club. Let's look at the putt again.
Boy, Chris, it reminds me of the putt that Jack hit last year in Dallas, that the last hole when he and Arnie tied the putt, there's just no way that the ball is going to not go in the hole. But now you watch as it goes by, it just goes right across, across the very lip of the hole.
And now, Lee Trevino in a similar position, reaching the green in 2 on this par 4 hole. Remember, at this moment, he leads by a stroke. He is even par in the round. Nicklaus is 1 over. At one time, Nicklaus was 3 over.
He has somewhat the same line nearly that Jack did, so he should learn a little bit from Jack's, but he still has a difficult putt to try to make. And there it went, as you saw it.
2-shot lead. Lee Trevino made birdie, but bonus. The second birdie for Trevino in his round. This one coming at the 12th hole. He birdied 8, so to be fair, let's see that putt again.
Well, and I watch how nicely he stroked it smooth. Here it goes, and as I said, he might have learned a little bit from the break that Jack did, and you saw it just disappear like a rat.
He's unbelievable.
Yes, he really is. He's really a cool cat, this guy. He's loose out there all the time. He plays hard and concentrates great. Really has a great attitude, a marvelous attitude for the game.
Two fellow Texans, Ben Hogan and Byron Nelson, predicted way back that he was a great player, and they're right. Let's go to Bill Fleming now.
All right, in the 13th hole is the little hole, the 129-yard hole, and there you see it from the back of the green looking toward the tee. And I think you can get an idea of the gallery. Despite the thunderstorm that we had earlier and the threat of another one, this gallery has not diminished a bit. It was warm and humid, about 95 degrees, and it did cool things off a little bit. Sometimes it's good to kind of listen to what Lee says around the teeing area. There's the gallery looking back at historic, the clubhouse there in the back, historic Marion, the colorful tents. And look at that, as you saw there, the sand that faces the golfers. That's really the problem here on the smallest green on the golf course, to get over the front bunker. The pin placement today is in a rather good spot. It's some 35 feet back from the front edge, so there's plenty to work with, and it's back on the left. Lee used a 9-iron here the past 4 rounds and has parred this hole all 4 previous rounds. You know, despite the crackling tension around the first tee today, they flipped the coin. Phil Strubing of the USGA flipped the coin, and the toss was called by Jack Nicklaus, so he got the honor. And everything was kind of quiet, and all of a sudden Lee reached into his golf bag and threw a fake snake at Jack. Needless to say, it broke all of the tension. Just a nice, easy 9-iron or a wedge, and up it comes, and look at the backspin. Not more than 7 feet from the cup on the 13th hole. Another chance for a birdie. He already has a 2-stroke lead. Remember, this is medal play. It is not hole by hole. Jack's main trouble today has been in bunker play. In the first 3 holes, he had 4 shots in the bunkers. He put it in on 2, left it in on his second shot, and put it in on 3 and also left it in, and more sand faces him here. Little right to left action on it. And he's inside Trevino as the ball spins back not more than 4 or 5 feet from the cup. ABC Sports and the USGA combine to bring you the finest in golf. We'll return to the Marion Golf Club in 1 moment. Lee Trevino will putt first here on the 13th, holding a 2-stroke lead over Jack Nicklaus in this 18-hole playoff for the 71st USGA Open Championship. 21 years ago, Ben Hogan defeated Lloyd Mangrum and George Fazio. Ben Hogan shooting a 69, Mangrum a 73, and Fazio a 75. And George Fazio has been a very interested spectator during this 1971 Open. This putt about an 8-footer. Lee just coming off a birdie at 12. This is for a birdie at 13. So he taps it in, or will tap it in for the par, and it gives Jack Nicklaus, a slight opening to pick up a stroke on Trevino. It's interesting here that these two men in the Open Championship playoff are running 1-2 in money for 1971. Jack has won $146,000, Lee $135,000. This is how they've played the hole so far, and they also are 1-2 in Ryder Cup points. And they're now in a death struggle for this championship. Nicklaus trails by 2 strokes. He can cut it to 1 if it goes in. Took a 360-degree turn around the cup and came out. He'll never have a better chance to pick up some ground. He still is 2 strokes behind Trevino, and he must be shaking his head. Let's watch it again. I can't believe it either. Around and out.
Bill?
Yes, Byron?
Well, you know what happens on something like that is his ball was breaking away from the hole. Now, if it had been on the upper side of the hole or the ball breaking into the hole, it would have dove right into the hole. But when it breaks onto the low side, then that gives a little momentum and makes it swing around from the hole instead of going in.
All right, on this first day of summer, let's go to number 14 now, and Bud Palmer and Dave Marr.
Well, thank you very much, Bill Fleming. It certainly is the first day of summer, and here's the pin placement on the 14th. And, Dave, it looks fairly easy today.
Well, but they put the pins in high places today because of the forecast of rain, and it so happens on this green, and it is in a, opening there where if a player drives it in the rough, he could possibly run the ball on the green. It's the easiest I've seen it for the 5 days.
Well, it's about 20 feet from that side there, the closest side, and Bob Howes, as vice president of the USGA, is always thinking about the thunderstorms that might occur, which they certainly did occur here. We had a 22-minute delay. This is a 414-yard par 4, and believe it or not, in the 3 opens that have been played here, it's proved to be the 3rd most difficult hole. It's a dogleg left. You can't see the tee. You've got traps out there. And the out of bounds is only 23 yards on the left-hand side. There it is with the road. You can see the guy jogging up there. And the crowd pouring down as the 2 players come to the tee. And you played this twice, Dave. How did it play? Where's the best place to be? Here's the model.
Well, of course, where the flag is today, just in the right center of the green, let's say, it's best, I would say, either in just the left side of the fairway or the middle. You don't want to get too far right here. You'll probably see Nicklaus hit well, you've got to avoid the rough that you see there on your left. That would be perfect, right where the pointer is. And I'm sure you'll see Jack probably hit, it looks like Lee might even be hitting a 3-wood here. He's not using a tee, and it's probably just going to take a 3-wood and cut the ball back into the fairway.
How close can you get out there?
Yeah.
Hey, how'd you do in playoffs, Dave?
Well, I was I've just played sudden death twice and happened to win both of them. This, to me, is a lot more exciting. I'm 2-0 for playoffs.
Not bad, fella. Here's Lee. He's had 2 birds and 1 bogey. Bogeyed the first hole.
Now, he doesn't want to get that ball too high in the air, so he's probably got a 3-wood and going to hit a left-to-right shot. Sounded like the people like it. Right, he's just perfect, right in the left center of the fairway.
Well, he's just taking it from you, Dave. You're 2-0. Where the pointer was is where he hit the ball.
Now, Jack, I'm sure, will use a 3-wood here. He did all the first 4 rounds because he doesn't want to go too far. He can drive in the right-hand rough, which wouldn't be a very good place to be.
Now, if you folks want to know how high Jack Nicklaus tees the ball, there you are.
And as I said, Bud, he's probably going to use a 3-wood, and it looks like he's got a driver out. So there's your expertise.
It's been a good hole for Jack. He's picked up in the 4 rounds. He's had 2 birdies and 2 pars. Lee has had 3 pars and 1 birdie. That was yesterday. Really counted. Jack trailing by 2. And he, too, is in the fairway here on the 414-yard par 4 14. You know, rarely does one see Chris Schenkel with such an impressive golf trophy. But on this occasion, Chris talks with last year's U.S. Open champion, British Tony Jacklin, about a very important matter.
One of the most coveted prizes in golf is this United States Open trophy. And to have your name inscribed on it as an Open champion is truly a thrill and an honor. The last name on it is the name of the gentleman to my right, Tony Jacklin. And I know, Tony, it's a thrill for you to know that your name will be a lasting memory in the history of American golf.
Well, it is a great thrill, Chris, and it's a great honor as well. And I just hope that the name never rubs off there.
No way it'll ever come off. We'll see to that.
Good.
Well, Tony, I know that your two subsequent victories in the Open Championships have made you a hero not only here, but on the other side of the Atlantic as well.
Well, thank you, Chris. And let me tell you about one of my heroes, General Dwight D. Eisenhower, who was so popular in Great Britain. He was an avid golfer, and during his years as President of the United States, he often sought relaxation on the golf course. But in the later years of his life, the General devoted much of his time and energy toward two projects in which he was vitally interested: Eisenhower College in Seneca Falls, New York, and the Eisenhower Medical Center in Palm Desert, California. And this year, we in the golf world have organized golf's tribute to Ike to create greater public interest and support for these two projects which the General was so fond of.
And for those of you at home who would like to help golf's tribute to Ike in its efforts to raise funds for the Eisenhower College and the Eisenhower Medical Center, you may do so either by giving at your local golf club to one of the 15,000 volunteers who are organizing to solicit contributions, or by mailing a tax-deductible check to Golf's Tribute to Ike, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. You know, a donation of $10 or as much more as you wish will entitle you to receive this handsome portrait of General Eisenhower, as well as this souvenir bag tag, which bears a likeness of the General. Tony, thank you so much for stopping by and telling us more about golf's tribute to Ike.
Thank you, Chris.
I think, Dave, that's the closest that Chris Schenkel will ever get to that Open trophy.
Well, he's got to practice a little. He was practicing this morning with Barron, I think.
Now we move out to the fairway. Jack Nicklaus and Lee Trevino right here. Looks like Lee is going to hit first. This is his fifth Open. His first Open is in '67. Nobody knew who he was. He finished fifth, shot .283. Nicholas won that one, by the way. Trevino made $6,000, and he won in '68, missed the cut in '69, and was eighth in 1970, the Open that Tony Jacklin won.
I'd say that's a pretty good Open record.
Sure is. Listen, what's this rain done besides soften up the greens? Much to the course or not, do you think?
Not too much. There wasn't really that much rain, but to have a big effect on it, it might have just softened the greens just a little bit. You saw both those shots at 13 stop very quickly. Now you see Lee getting ready to play his second shot. He's in perfect position here to hit a left to right shot in at this flag.
What do you think he's using?
Oh, probably from there, 5 or 6 iron.
He heard him say that's too much. Let's see if he's right or wrong. He is right. It goes over the green, directly below the tower, and he knew it as soon as he hit it. You could hear Lee say that's too much.
Well, reason being, you can see where the people are, and that's Mac England, the forward observer. But the reason that the ball might have jumped a little bit on him was because of the wet weather. It tends, when the grass gets a little wet, for it to squirt as you hit it, or hit a flyer, as we say. And now Jack's getting ready to play his second bud. He's probably got about an 8 iron or 7 iron. He was about 20 yards in front of Lee there. Very deliberate player.
That's what Arnold says, too.
Can't tell whether he likes it or not. And he's a little bit long, too, Bud.
He sure is. About 30, 35 feet, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, but he's got to be aggressive because he's 2 shots back, and just like you saw at the last hole, when the ball starts coming back at you, you figure maybe it's not your day.
Dave, Jack really pounds a tee shot. Analyze this one, will you?
Well, as you can see there, he's in very good position. Now, you'll notice that as Jack starts away, he sort of cocks his head a little bit to the left, moves the club away, breaking ever so slightly all the way. It looks like it's one piece, taking his club back inside, hands very high, left heel, weight on the inside of the right foot. Now, as he starts down, his left heel goes to the ground, he moves laterally through, turning out of the way and impact into a nice high finish. Just a great swing. Beautiful balance. See how full and wide his arc was going through the ball. That's just, I wish I could borrow that swing for about 2 years, but
I think so is everybody in the world. And now they're coming up to the 14th. Two players along with Phil Strubing, who's president of the USGA. By the way, this is Jack Nicklaus's 14th Open. He's won it twice, he's been second twice, third once, and fourth once.
that's remarkable that you think, 14 Opens, he's only 31 years old. He got a little bit of a head start on some guys, Bud.
And here are the winnings, Jack Nicklaus and Lee Trevino. And, of course, first prize is $30,000 here. So whoever wins will be the decided leading money winner. Second prize is $15,000. And now we're going back to Lee Trevino's ball, asking the marshals who've done beautiful work here, talking to Phil Strubing. Maybe they want that barricade removed a little bit.
Well, what they're talking about there, Bud, he's right under our tower. Right, I can see the ball. There's a rope there, a gallery rope, and he might be a little bit close to our tower. There's a snow fence here that is around the bottom, and we'll see whether it interferes with his stance or swing, in which case he would get to move to where it would not interfere, and no penalty involved in that.
We'll have to be very quiet because actually if we dropped a golf ball out of the tower, it'd almost hit Jack right on the head. We've had, there's all sorts of thunderstorm warnings last night, and everybody turned out today. It poured rain. Everybody scattered like a big flock of quail, but by gosh, when they started playing again, everybody came pouring back once again.
He's taking a couple of practice swings there, Bud, while Phil is watching him to see if it does interfere with his swing, and he's not sure whether it does or not. You can see him grinning and walking out there.
Still, he's making a few remarks. As Bill Fleming said, he brought out that big fake snake and threw it at Jack when Jack won the flip to see whose honor it was. Lee's playoff record, by the way, he's won 2 and lost 2. In '70, he won at Tucson in the first extra hole. He won at the National Airlines Open. He lost to Kaiser in a 3-way playoff.
He's got a sand iron, Bud.
That's got to stop, though. Look at how slick these greens are, even after the rain, and he's left himself, 12 to 14 feet, I'd say, coming back for his par here.
That's about right. Of course, with a 2-shot lead, he can, he's got to be sure to get the ball on the green out there, but he can't fluff it, like Jack did the first on 2 and 3 when he left it in a trap each time.
That's amazing. Jack's had an interesting round. He's had 3 birds, 2 bogeys, and 1 double bogey. Lee has had 2 birds and 1 bogey. Lee was even for the first 9. Jack was 1 over. And Jack has to, now you can see that undulation. He has to go down to this putt, and then up, and then downhill again with a right to left break, I'd say.
It's almost impossible putt to make. And of course, there you see how they've played the hole in the 4 rounds of the tournament. Of course, Lee's birdie yesterday was at a most opportune time. But you can see Jack's ball there, how he has to putt through a little swale. Downhill, then back uphill, then downhill again. He cannot afford to hit it too hard because he's got Lee about 12 or 14 feet away.
This is about 30 to 35 feet. This is quite a pivotal hole yesterday. Lee Trevino birdied the hole, as Dave said, to go 1 under for the tournament and take the lead with a 12-foot putt. Then Jack Nicklaus 2-putted for his par to stay even, and 3rd round leader Jim Simons got into the rough and bogey to go 1 over, a stroke which he never recovered. By the way, I'd like to congratulate the amateur Jim Simons, a 21-year-old who led going into the final round, shot 76, but he certainly did not fold. 17, he just missed a putt to go in a tie with Nicklaus and Palmer. And as a good competitor should, on the 18th, Jim Simons went broke for a birdie to tie it up, but he took a double bogey. Rather, it was Nicklaus and Trevino that he'd go on the playoff with, not Arnold. I'm sure Arnold's watching this one now. Jack for the birdie, but it's a long, tough putt. And he is strong.
Beautiful putt, though, Bud. Real good putt. He's left himself one. You know, you don't want to leave it short of the hole and still be putting downhill on your second try. It's just a little bit too firm.
Lee Trevino here, leading Jack Nicklaus by 2, needs his putt for his par.
A little picture of Jack there on the left. He's watching very closely. Should break a little left to right, Bud.
Oh, what a great putt by Lee Trevino.
That was a very large putt to make there. As you can see, he's...
Well, he just kissed it. He put it in his mouth yesterday after he sank it here for the birdie. Now, Jack Nicklaus. Did you hear about young Jack, who's 9 years old, broke 50 for the first time and came into his mother, Barbara, and said, "Well, Mom, just shows you that all those years of practice finally paid off." 9 years old.
He's got almost the same line as Lee had, but he's just got to start it inside the left of the hole. Almost straight and just hit it solid.
Right in the middle of the cup. But Jack Nicklaus still trails by 2 as they go to the 15th hole. And now let's go to the gentleman covering the 15th, the Adonis, Frank Gifford.
Thank you, Bud. And here is the 15th, 378 yards, not long in distance, but many hazards, out of bounds on the left. Here's the tee shot, and you must hit a good tee shot here at 15. The ideal placement would be to cut that first bunker. And this would, as you see, bunkers flanking the fairway all along the right side. And the pin tucked in behind the bunker on the right, where the golfer, hitting a good tee shot, would play something between a 8 or 9 or possibly even a wedge. And here it is from behind the green. That's the bunker in front of the green that the golfers will have to flirt with to get near the pin. Bunkers on the left.
Come on, Jack. Come on, Jack.
Well trapped. The big problem here, of course, the out of bounds on the left, the deep rough on the right. That far bunker you see is the one the golfers must cut just over the top for pin placement. Lee Trevino, just as loose as they come. One of the most amazing things I've ever seen in sports is what happened on the first tee here at Marion today when Lee Trevino, and you could hear the electricity crackling in the crowd. He reached in that bag and pulled out that snake and broke the entire house up. It's a great player, cool, Lee Trevino. And Trevino has put the ball in good position, a little right of probably where he would like to be. He will have to come over the bunker to the pin for his second shot. And he'll have about 28 feet between the pin and the bunker, guarding the green here at 15. Now Jack Nicklaus. 2 shots down, 4 holes to go. The gallery loves that one. Nicklaus also on the right side. Just about dead even with Lee Trevino. ABC Sports continues to bring you the finest in professional golf, and with a slight pause in the action here at the Marion Golf Club, we'll take this opportunity to bring you an important message. Here's how it stands through 14 holes at the Marion Golf Club in the playoff round of the U.S. Open. And Byron, Lee Trevino doesn't have the classical swing of Jack Nicklaus. Take a look at this one.
Well, he has a marvelous swing. It's just a different style than Jack. And Lee is much shorter, so naturally he has what we call a swing that's a little flatter. It comes around a little bit more than Jack comes up. You notice now his left side, he moves away with his arms before his left. Usual for a good player to do this, but his shoulders rotate more than staying under. And now in this position, notice how he drops because he is leading so strongly into his left side, keeping the face of the club open. See how his head really stays down and both arms very straight through the hitting area into the shot. And that's why he drives the ball down the fairway so beautifully and with a little fade.
And he has outdriven Jack Nicklaus. This is Jack Nicklaus's second shot. He'll have to come directly over a bunker from about 145 yards out. And he is dead on line. Absolutely a sensational shot for Jack Nicklaus. About 8 feet from the pin here at 15. Byron, I would imagine the rain that we had earlier has slowed these greens down somewhat. That ball stopped right dead there.
Yes, especially, Frank, with just enough moisture now to the green to hold the pitches well, but still will putt quite fast.
Lee Trevino now with a 2-shot lead. And he is off a little to the right. And his ball bites, spins back. Lee Trevino will have about 22 feet. The Jolly One from El Paso, Texas. Of course, looking for his second U.S. Open. Jack Nicklaus, his third. Both of them.
Frank?
Hold the U.S. Open record. Yes, Byron.
I would think that Lee was probably trying, of course, he would like to have had that shot closer to the hole, but he wanted to be sure he didn't get too far above the hole and just let Jack make his own 3 if he could. He wanted to stay below the hole. Of course, he would much prefer to get a little closer than that, but it was not too bad.
Nicklaus has played 15 at even par throughout the tournament. And both of them, of course, get that rousing ovation as they approach the green. Lee Trevino's had 1 birdie here on Friday. Yesterday, both of them had clutch 5-footers. And here are the qualifiers who will move into the 1972 U.S. Open because, of course, they finish in the top 15. Jack Nicklaus and Lee Trevino, of course, Jim Colbert, Bob Rosberg, John Miller, George Archer, Jim Simons, the brilliant amateur from Butler, Pennsylvania, Ray Floyd, Gay Brewer, Bert Yancey, Larry Henson, Bobby Nichols, Lanny Watkins, the other fine amateur. Jerry Hurd, and those were the ties at 15.
Also, Frank.
Yes, sir.
I might add that the ones just behind them with the low 16 would be the ones who will also be qualified to play in the Masters in 1972.
Lee Trevino. And he will have a putt of about 22 feet, I would imagine. we mentioned that Jack Nicklaus is looking for his third U.S. Open championship. Ben Hogan, of course, won the Open 4 times. Bobby Jones 4 times. Willie Anderson 4 times. Lee Trevino from about 22 feet with a 2-shot lead. And he has put it in again. Lee Trevino, who is really hot today. And he's loose. And let's look at that putt again. No question all the way for Lee Trevino. Now Jack Nicklaus studying his putt. This from about 8 feet. And Byron, what does that do to you when you're 2 down?
Well, Frank, right at this point, Jack he knows, of course, what kind of a competitor Lee is. So he feels at this point that he must get this in almost, because you can't give Lee Trevino very many strokes.
Study and concentration, Jack Nicklaus.
I will say one thing, Frank, that Jack will not be ruffled. He will give it his best, and that is awfully good. He'll take his time, as he always does, and he will not hit it till he gets ready. And if it doesn't go in, why, he'll give it the best try of anybody you ever saw nearly.
Certainly he proved that he does not ruffle, and he's proved it for many years. But yesterday, a great display of golf in these final 5 holes to move into a tie with Trevino. Its pin is placed almost in the location where it was yesterday, perhaps 10 feet towards the back of the green. And yesterday we watched many putts with just a slight curl to the left.
You can tell, Frank, by his actions that he knows he must make this putt.
Jack Nicklaus now in danger of going 3 down to Lee Trevino. Right in the heart. And another beautiful pressure putt by Jack Nicklaus. And he will not crack. He did it yesterday. He's done it again. Under the gun. Right in the heart. Jack Nicklaus remaining 2 down to Lee Trevino as we go now to 16 Henry Longhurst.
There's the model of the 16th hole as they walk across to the tee. 430 yards, par 4. There's where we start, and we go downhill to that position there. Even Nicklaus can generally take a driver. But although it sounds rather obvious, this is one hole where you absolutely must be straight, because if you get in the rough on the left there, you cannot get over those trees and the quarry, and you can't get over those trees if you go on the right. There's the quarry, about 100 yards of it, perhaps less, and the flag up on the top of the 2 tiers on this green. Magnificent par 4 hole. That's as we look back up to the tee, far side, just off the picture on the right. We may just be able to see the players there. You can see how downhill the drive is, then through the narrow gap between the trees, and uphill and up to the higher tier of the 2 terraces on this green. Tremendously thrilling match, this. I know it isn't a match, really, but of course it is. It's Nicklaus v. Trevino. Trevino, the 16th. Go ahead. I seem to be happy with that one. Anyone on the fairway will do, and there it is. So he's admirably set up now to go over the quarry and up the hill onto the top level of the green. That's Lee Trevino, 16th, leading by 2. Trevino wanting 3 par figures for a 68. Nicklaus, 3 pars for a 70. Wonderful golf. Here's Jack Nicklaus, the 16th, 2 behind, 3 to play. And he's happy with that one, too. You'll see it about 6 seconds. Pitch is down just in the shallow rough, but that won't matter, and it's above ground. Now, ABC Sports continues with its exclusive color coverage of this prestigious U.S. Open Golf Championship following this message. And now we pick them up again. Lee Trevino, 2 ahead with 3 to play. This is the 16th, and they're going to play their second shots over this quarry in a moment. On our left, Lee Trevino. You'll see on the right, just in the semi-rough, is Nicklaus. We see him second. It's, I'm pretty sure, Trevino to play first. Now, he's on the fairway, but he's still a bit too much to the right, and is balked by these big trees. They've probably all grown up very quietly without people noticing them since the course was built in 1912. Lee Trevino, the 16th, 2 ahead. Now he's got to get up onto the second level of the green. And he's done it absolutely magnificently. I've never seen an exhibition of this, peppering these flags at this supreme moment. And there's one from, make it 10 feet, certainly no more. This is a real heavyweight contest. The 2 leading players of the year in points and in money. Now Nicklaus to reply to that one. Perfect drive right down by the quarry. Probably an 8-iron or so. That's the shortest shot he could have left himself, and he replies with another body blow. Straight back, you give me one, I'll give you one back. Look at those. That's 10 and 15 feet. 10 for Trevino, 15 for Jack Nicklaus. And there's a nice place to watch the U.S. Open Championship from, and a nice day in which to do it. The sun coming out now, and no chance, I think, of any more of the rain, which held it up for 22 minutes earlier on. And they march along through the quarry there. About 80 yards of it, brush and scrub and gorse and broom. And Lee Trevino striding ahead as usual.
Henry?
Yes. Yes, Byron.
They're certainly not giving each other any quarters, are they?
Well, this is like, as I've said, 2 real heavyweights fighting a real fair fight and hammering it out blow for blow. I must say, if I may intrude a personal note, I thought, and also still think, that these playoffs are often a great nuisance to a lot of people. But I must say that having watched the concluding stages of this one, I'm very glad to have been here. Yes, about 15 feet for Nicklaus, and now the position is reversed from the last hole. He's got the longer one, and if he could get it in, as Trevino did, on the last green, he'd put the most tremendous pressure on. And here's how they've played this hole so far. Trevino with 1 birdie, all the rest pars. Yesterday we saw almost everybody play it, 60 players, and there were 4 birdies.
Henry?
Yes, Byron.
From a player's standpoint, here I think is what might be going through Nicklaus's mind. Trevino putting and playing the way he is and inside of Jack. Jack might say, well, I really must get this one in, or Trevino might make that one and I would be 3 behind and 2 to go, whereas if I could make it, then I'd put the pressure and I might be only 1 behind. I think that would be his thoughts at this moment.
Well, I'm sure that's fair psychology. But perhaps all he's thinking about is to get it in. They've got to play, I'm sure Byron would agree now, single shot by shot, not hole by hole.
Absolutely true at this point.
I think we've been studying this putt from up here for a time, and I'm being uncharitable in saying it's 15. I think it's between 15 and 18. Downhill. No good taking a charge at it. So now the 16th green, the 71st U.S. Open, the playoff. Nicklaus 2 behind Trevino with 3 to play. This for a birdie 3. What a magnificent try. Right to the last moment. This is putting on a very high level. If you were with us yesterday, you'll remember that he held 3 tremendous putts running. 15, 16, 17. Yes. And he couldn't be nearer than that. And now here's one from 10 or 11 feet for Trevino. 2 ahead at the moment. Can't fail to get down in 2 more. Must remain 2 ahead. And it's this to go 3 ahead with 2 to play for Trevino. This for a birdie 3 to go 3 ahead. Now that was pushed out right from the start. You can always see on television better than with the naked eye. And there was never any chance of that not going to the right. So they halve the hole with a par 4, each with a chance for a 3. Nicklaus is the better try from a greater distance. Position unchanged as they leave the 16th, and that's Lee Trevino 2 ahead with 2 to play. Now we go to Bill Fleming.
Thank you, Henry. And the quarry that was so significant on the 16th also comes into play on the 17th hole. There's the teeing area through the quarry, and again, the wilderness and jungle that is between the tee and the green. There's no fairway at all, as you can see, although they do cut it back for the members somewhat. 6 traps surrounding a rather large green, double-tiered. The idea here with the pin placement today in the upper left-hand corner as the golfer views it is to get it up on the tier. And there you see the wicker basket on top of the flag stick. Normally a flag on top of it, but this is the only club in the United States, to our knowledge, that today has the wicker basket. This is a throwback to the old Scottish shepherd who put his lunch basket on top of his crook, and when Hugh Wilson, the amateur architect who designed Marion, went to Britain to study the courses there, he brought that back. Winged Foot had it for a short time, and now Marion is the only club that has it. You can't get any idea of where the wind is blowing by looking at a wicker basket. Here's the shot by Trevino.
Easy. God.
Oh, I think he thought it hit it a little long.
Oh.
It's short. Short and short of the trap, which is fortunate. And short of the long grass, he's just off the fringe. There it is. You can just barely make out the top of the ball, but he will have a shot at it. However, he will have a rather snaky double break to come over. Now Jack Nicklaus, and the pressure is certainly on him. Jack, who faltered a bit on the second and third holes with a bogey and double bogey, finds himself even par, but 2 strokes behind Trevino, which of course is important. The only thing that's of any importance right now, as a matter of fact, is to get that 1 stroke back here if he can, and hope that Trevino will falter, and hope that he can make the swing of 2. Again, medal play, not match play. Total strokes. If they should tie at the end of 18, they would go right back to the first hole and continue and play to sudden death, and we have coverage of it, fortunately for you. So a big shot here on the 224-yard giant of a par 3. It's in the bunker. It's in the bunker, and it's buried. And that is where Jack does not want to be because of his rather unfortunate bunker play in the first 2 holes, where the white faces of Marion, so-called sand traps here, rose up like a specter to haunt him and may still through his dreams. We'll return to the Marion Golf Club following this important message. Humanity in every conceivable place here at Marion. This golf course laid out on only 126 acres, and now the golfers coming through. If you let your imagination wander a bit as they wander up here, you could almost hear the drums of a safari as they wind their way through the jungle. Lee with a bit of a smile. I'll say this for Jack, too. He has a great sense of humor. After Lee had taken out the fake snake and thrown it around and made light of the match at the first hole, Jack was obviously a little tense, but he came up and said to Lee, look, we have 2 minutes before we tee off. Would you like to go first? I'm known as a rather slow player. Then we can finish on time. And now, Jack looking over what will be probably one of the most important bunker shots he's ever played. Trevino is not on the putting surface, but he is on the fringe of the green. And now Nicklaus, facing here quite a problem as this young man looks down from one of the trees from above. On the second hole, Jack was in the bunker and failed to get out on his first attempt. On the third hole, he did the same thing. He had taken just simply too much. Trevino has had 16 birdies in this championship. Nicklaus has had 13. Jack's double bogey on the third hole today spelled his doom, because that's where Lee Trevino took over the lead, and he has not relinquished it. He still holds 2 strokes with 2 holes to play. A lot of green to work with, but he has to come over a little ridge. he hit some shot. That ball was down so deep, very few people, without the strength of a Nicklaus, could have gotten it out of there and put it 6 feet from the cup. Let's just roll back the calendar a couple of hours in time and take a look at his earlier bunker shot on the second hole. This was in the stifling heat of the early afternoon. This is on the second hole earlier this afternoon, and you can see the ball fly up and land again right in the bunker. The second hole is a long par 5, and he wound up with a bogey 6. Now back live on the 17th. For the second shot of Lee Trevino, who won the Open Championship at Oak Hill and Rochester when Nicklaus finished second. He's ahead right now, and Nicklaus looks like he's going to finish second. However, a lot of golf yet in these one hole and a bit to play. A little bit strong, hit it high, hands it down, coming in the back. It's all right. You look for a moment as it might be just a little bit over that ridge, but the rain softened things up just enough to slow the ball down, put the brakes on, and now Lee has less than a 3-footer for his par. I think it's safe to say that if Jack misses this one, it'll be hard to recover to win the championship that he so desperately wants for his 12th major title. This is the way it is right now. Trevino with a 2-stroke lead. He took the lead on the third hole of this 18-hole playoff and has held it ever since. This putt, about 6 feet, with a left to right break. Both caddies very anxious for their competitors to win. Both picked their golfers by lot. You can hear the interurban of the Penn and Western Railroad. There is Pete Burton, the caddy of Jack Nicklaus, 25-year-old student at Villanova. And there is Tom Tadio, 21 years old, a student at St. Joseph College, both seniors.
Bill?
Go ahead, Byron.
You know, it's one thing, whether Jack makes the putt or not, I want you to watch how still he keeps his body and what a firm position he has his body in on this putt. It looks like you could run over with a tank almost, not move him, when he really gets locked in the position that he uses, and that's why he is normally so wonderful on these length putts. Yesterday, as he made some of those great putts toward the finish of the round, he was so still you couldn't see anything move except just the putter in his hands and arms.
Only the mechanical sounds of the train and nature's sound here. This is for the 3. This is for the bogey 4. But more importantly, if Lee Trevino makes his putt, he would go 3 strokes up with 1 hole to go. And it would be safe to say perhaps that the Open Championship will be decided right here and now, although the 18th hole is formidable indeed. It is the toughest hole on the golf course. 21 years ago, Ben Hogan rolled in a 50-footer to win the championship in a playoff with Mangrum and Fazio, and this man here, Jack Nicklaus, has bogeyed the hole, and his hopes are fading. Current PGA champion, remember, wanted to double it with the Open win. Even though he failed at the Masters, there is still the British Open to come. But it looks like Lee Trevino, a dark horse certainly, in 1968, based on his fine finish in 67, was one of the co-favorites this year. And it's in the cup. He takes a 3-stroke lead to the 18th hole. All right, Chris, it's all yours.
Nice going, Bill. Lee Trevino now making the short trek to the 18th tee as we look at the hole model of this this blockbuster, 458 yards par 4. There is that narrow slot off the tee to the landing area, Byron.
Yes, that is some area. There's a little bit of a downslope. If you go beyond where the marker is there, the pointer, you see the bunkers guarding the fairway and guarding the green. And we never have said much about it, but there's the green there, and from the front of the green it slopes up to the center, from the center back. But we never said much about it, but I've seen quite a few balls go out of bounds on the second shot here that is very close to this green along the left-hand side. In other words, just to the left of the bunkers. So we could see something happen here, but we don't expect it to.
I don't care. Let it go over. I don't want no
Lee
feed.
Trevino at 2 under. Jack Nicklaus is 1 over.
Trevino's hit is on the right-hand side of the fairway, right on the top of the hill, just an ideal place to be.
There you see the 4 caddy going out, giving the indication, and now you see the golf ball itself. And from the fairway, we move back toward the tee, and now from the back of the tee, through the chute, here is Jack Nicklaus.
I'm sure you'll see one ball hit hard right here. Right in the fairway on the downslope, about 15 yards, 20 yards possibly in front of where Trevino went.
This championship began in 1895. Horace Rollins won it at the Newport Golf Club. And the minute you win the Open, you join the elite group in the who's who of golf. Yes, as recently as 1968, Lee Trevino, very obscure, coming to Rochester and beating the best for his first Open championship. Young man, young Texan, born in 1939. And I'll tell you, Byron, he's been working on that gum today. He hasn't had too much chance to talk.
I'll say he has.
But he's been playing golf.
He played beautifully. In 1939, Chris. Ooh, boy.
That was the same year. I hate to remind you this, Pro, but...
Oh, boy.
Now, Lee has it going at a 2 under pace. The lowest playoff rounds ever shot. Byron Nelson and the late Craig Wood in the first 18 as they tied with 68s. Here's Trevino now with his iron on the 18th fairway. He is short to the right, and from where we are, it appeared that it dropped into the sand.
I think that it did, Chris. He's an excellent bunker player, and we just had a motion from Bud Palmer out there that the ball might have even buried.
All right. Lee Trevino at 2 under, Jack Nicklaus 1 over. In other words, 3 strokes separating them on the final hole of this 18-hole playoff. Here is Nicklaus now.
Chris, you can expect Jack to throw this ball hard and high and try to get as close to the hole as possible, about a 4 or 5 iron on this 458-yard hole.
Longest drive on 18 we've seen during this championship. Now his second shot.
Hits the ball quite high, and I'm sure that this will be... And it is. It's a beautiful-looking shot. Nice and high, right in the middle of the green.
Look at that. What a shot. About 8 feet here on the home hole. We'll return to the Marion Golf Club following this message from our local station. And now striding like a Texas rancher, looking over prize herd of cattle, Lee Trevino moves and takes a look at the lie in the bunker before the 18th. The ball is not buried, and here is a 2-time Open champion, Jack Nicklaus, who has hit a magnificent second shot to within about 8 feet of the cup. He is trailing by 3. 1 over par on the round. Lee Trevino is 2 under par. Nicklaus with a 37 on the front side, 1 over. Trevino even par at 36.
Chris, you can know exactly what Lee is going to try to do. He's going to try to play the ball right out into the middle of the green. He's not worried about how close he gets to the flag. Of course, he'll look toward the flag, but he's a good bunker player. He'll try to put the ball just out on the green because that would give him still 2 putts to win, even if Nicklaus were to make his putt. What a shot. What a shot.
And the friendly bandito, Lee Trevino, hits a honey out of one of the 126. He's giving Byron and me, throwing us a kiss, and I'll tell you, once you play around with him, as I did in Tulsa recently, Byron, it makes you fully appreciate this young man because he has a great attitude about life and about the game of golf. And, of course, looking at Jack Nicklaus now with this putt for a 3. We know it's a bitterly disappointing year for him because he did want to win the Masters after copping the PGA. And now here, he's had to go 18 holes against a former Open champion. He did have 4 birdies today, but then those bogeys.
He just missed too many shots. He played some great holes, but he just happened to miss some just at the wrong place. And some of those bunker shots that he had earlier where he took 2 to get out of, he had long bunker shots. They're very difficult to judge. That was about an 8 or 9 footer straight downhill, smooth, very little break. It's amazing how quiet all these people can get at once.
Largest playoff gallery I've ever seen.
Agreed.
My inches again. So, with this putt, it's a round of 71 for Jack Nicklaus, 1 over. Still manages to smile. This for a par 4 for Lee Trevino. There it is, tying Byron Nelson and the Lake Craig Woods playoff round at 68. A 3-shot victory for Lee Trevino as the president of the USGA, Phil Strubing, looks on. Gives us an opportunity to thank the executive committee, P.J. Boatwright, Frank Hannigan, Bob Summers, and here at Marion, what a job they've done. Earl Baruch, Rodney Day, Richie Valentine, Bill Kettleman. This has been some Open, Byron.
Oh, it's been marvelous, and I'll tell you that the golf that these fellows played under these conditions today, and especially the 68 by Trevino, is one of the great rounds of golf I've ever seen.
That is Bob House of Wichita, congratulating the 2 players. Lee Trevino, and listen to these rounds. Opening round of 70 or par, 72 for the second day, 69, 69, 68.
3 rounds under par the last 3 days, Chris, on this test of golf is just unbelievable, really, almost.
And remember that no one bettered par in 72 holes, the total. They finished yesterday deadlocked at 280, which is even par. But Trevino came back today 2 under.
Chris, the peculiar thing maybe about it was that Trevino said earlier that, oh, I'd love to have 280 and sit in the clubhouse, and that's just exactly what he shot.
Of course, now we'll be seeing a renewal of this head-to-head battle, I'm sure, because Trevino is going to play in the British Open, and of course Jack Nicklaus is defending British Open champion. ABC will be televising the final round from Royal Birkdale. And of course, we look forward to next year's Open at Pebble Beach, out there off Monterey Bay, and that'll certainly be a supreme test, as will the following year's site, Wingfoot.
These great golf courses that the United States Golf Association picked to play this championship is really great. It's great for golf.
And just to make sure that I get the Opens in their proper sequence, next year Pebble Beach, Oakmont in 1973, and Wingfoot in 1974. And you know, even at Wingfoot, they're doing preparations on the course right now, even though we're 3 years away. Let's go down to Bud Palmer.
Thank you very much, Chris. I have Bob Howes, the Vice President of USGA. And Bob, what about this playoff?
I think it's the most superb playoff we've ever had. By far the largest gallery, and I have no idea what the number is. and most magnificent golf. And
Come on
it
here.
it
Here's the
certainly
president, Phil Strubing. I've never seen two guys work harder in my life. Congratulations to the USG for winning such an outstanding tournament. You're both soaked. You both got caught in the rain. You're dripping wet, perspiring, and also from that rainstorm. Phil, what did you think about the playoff?
Well, I thought it was wonderful. There were some spectacular shots. Jack Nicklaus got off to a slow start, and you don't give Lee Trevino a head start and catch him very easily, and Jack never could. That was a difficult decision on Lightning because you want to keep play going, but you don't want to take the risk of anybody's life, and worked out all right, fortunately.
Well, you two have certainly worked very hard today. Any comments about, shall we say, the quicksands of Marion caught Jack Nicklaus or not with those trap shots? And he left two in the trap. That was very unusual, I thought.
It was very unusual. He just came up off the ball twice, which I do, but I don't think he should.
Phil, were there many comments from the players back and forth? Was Lee fairly quiet or what today?
He was quiet in the sense that he talked all the time, but not very loud. But they were very friendly. They had a good time out there, and it was a nice round.
Do you think the turning points did shake Jack's confidence being in the trap a couple of times? Bob, do you have any comments about that? Where was the turning point, would you say, in the match? Because you fellas followed it all the way around, had a better view than anybody else.
I think Phil very aptly described the turning point, and I wouldn't have anything to add to it, but
Here he is. Here's our, come on.
But the only thing I want to say...
See, I told you. I didn't say a word, and he's already talking.
Let me
Go
take
ahead.
care of this. The only thing I want to say is I'd like to say hello to Tony Baloney, which is 2 years old, my little boy, and I'd like to say hi to my wife, because whenever I'm in contention and it looks like I'm going to win, they have a Scotch party over at my house.
And what do you mean? Wait, this is Monday. That's all right, I guess.
Hey, that's all right, but I can just see right now they're out. They're absolutely out.
Lee, what would you describe you putted very well today coming in the incoming 9.
Well, I was a little shaky when I started out. As you know, I bogeyed the first hole. I missed about a 2-footer there. Jack was very nice to me. Left it in the bunker on 2 to make 6. He left it in the bunker in 3 to make double bogey 5. And I said, if the first one that starts making mistakes, then I'm going to start. I think the next one is going to start playing conservative. This is what happened, and I made a couple of good putts coming in, and it's hard to catch up. And I think the big turning point is if I could have made the putt on the 16th hole, I would have really loved it, especially playing a man like Jack Nicklaus on 17 and 18, as long as the holes are. But I scrambled a 3-iron on the green, and he plugged it in the right bunker, and when he made 4, it made my little 3-footer down that hill much easier.
You liked 16. What was it on Saturday? You curled in what about how long was that putt you put in on 16 on Saturday?
That was about 2 city blocks, to tell you the truth. I don't really know. It was about 70 feet. When you get 70 feet away, but you're just trying to get close, and it just so happened it went in. But I don't know what to say. I love everybody, and
well, congratulations, Lee, winning your second U.S. title. And gentlemen, thank you very much on behalf of ABC, Bob Howes, and Phil Strubing. Thank you very much. Now back to you, Chris.
Thank you very much, Bud. And just imagine, ladies and gentlemen, in America's most important championship, 4,300 golfers with a 2 handicap or better try to get into it. Only 150 made it, 15 amateurs and the West professionals. And here in an 18-hole playoff, only 2 men, head-to-head. And with his arm raised in victory, it is Lee Trevino who has won 2 Open championships in a matter of 4 years, which is a testimony to a fine athlete.